Hey guys, welcome to another live show, another live She Knows Arsenal. Make sure you guys are liking the video and subscribing to the channel, and most importantly, getting into the chat and letting me know what you guys are thinking about this most recent Arsenal transfer news. This show is going to be so different than it was meant to be. I had woken up around 3 a.m. and saw all of the kind of meltdown over Hand of Arsenal and a couple other people pouring cold water on the Eze deal, saying that we needed to sell, and Ethan changing things for the Eze deal. And so there was huge panic and head loss on the timeline, I think justified. And so I wouldn't be surprised if Arsenal dropped this little bit of news, to calm everybody down, because we needed something. We definitely needed something. So Ornstein actually dropped the news first. We'll go to Fabrizio first, but Ornstein was the first person to, basically say that Victor Gyökeres to Arsenal is done. A verbal agreement in place between all parties involved. Sporting accepted last bid from Arsenal for the 63.5 million plus 10 million. Agent will reduce his commission. Gyökeres will sign a 5-year deal. He only wants Arsenal. And so essentially, outside of, him signing the contract and all that kind of stuff, we've agreed on those add-ons, which was plaguing us so badly. Those add-ons were a nightmare, an absolute nightmare. And it just kind of felt like it was dragging and dragging and dragging and dragging and dragging and dragging. And so I think we needed this bad. We'll talk about, the bigger picture in a little bit, but I do just want to get kind of raw feelings on how you guys are feeling about the deal now that it's concluding, and we can, kind of celebrate it a little bit more and maybe feel a little bit more confident. Until it was actually here we go, and there was a full agreement on even the add-ons, I was a little bit holding back from, fully celebrating or being excited. Personally, fuck it. Get the medical done, send him to Singapore. Don't really care about the the video or the interview or any of that shit. I really don't. But Arsenal and Sporting are on the verge of total agreement for Victor Gyökeres. The fee was already struck, but add-ons needed work. Now finalizing finishing touches. Conclusion imminent. Striker wanted, AFC only. So yeah, it's done. It's done. And I think it was done before this when Arteta was like, I can't talk about a player that's not a part of our group yet. I feel like that was a clear indication that it was done or is getting done. And so I know there's still going to be, yeah, but it's not done. It's like, well, usually when we get to this point and we get a here we go and all this kind of stuff, it's done. We don't need to pretend like it's not done or that it's going to fall through or anything like that. It's done, guys, like relax. So now he should be cleared to do his medical. I think that's per Ben Jacobs within the next like 24 hours or so. This needs to happen ASAP. I'm so sorry, but like I would love for him to be in before for the AC Milan game, but clearly that's not going to happen. So probably the Newcastle game, which obviously now that puts a lot more I guess definitely rivals are going to be buying that game 100%. They were already going to buy the package for our preseason games, let's be real, but they're going to want to see the Isak versus Gyökeres thing. So yeah, but AFC reached an agreement with Sporting for Victor Gyökeres. Nature of the 2.5 million of the bonuses needed finalizing with a breakthrough this weekend. Gyökeres permission to undergo a medical expected within 24 hours. And so it had kind of been done, which when they had put out the pictures of Gyökeres and his agent in Spain, I was thinking it's most likely done now. That was over the weekend, but we just hadn't heard anything further. And so it could just be the case that they were waiting for the right moment to kind of put the news out there. And this was probably the best possible time that they could because, the negativity was starting to spiral. But yeah, I would expect him to be ready for the Newcastle game. There's no reason why he shouldn't. If you need an announcement video or whatever, just film it in Asia. It's more important that he gets in there and is ready to play first day of the season than all the other stuff, So yeah, let's see what you guys are saying. Owen says Glock 9, tell Jesus to find a new number and a club in Jan. We made it, gang. Yeah, I don't him going to any of as well. Wait, what do you mean? Yeah, I don't him going to any of them as well. Rewrite that. So I can know exactly what you mean by that because I kind of feel like I get what you're saying, but not really. Olu says, let's fucking go, guys. We need a left wing and Eze now. We need to spend next year budget now. We can't wait. Eze over Rodrigo, but wouldn't say no to both. David Ornstein always tweets when it's done. And he's pretty clear. Like when he first tweeted about the advanced negotiations, he said that the add-ons had to be, agreed upon. And then that was the last thing that he said. So yeah, medical within 24 hours, I heard. Is he going to Asia? I'm sure he is. Is it 100% done, Jess? I don't believe it. Besides him needing to do his medical and sign the contract, it looks like it's done. Love Arteta and Berta, the entire Arsenal family. I think they will announce him by next Monday, but I don't know if he will go to Singapore. I think he will. There's no reason why he shouldn't. And to be honest, taking a long time to announce a signing is a choice. They literally went and filmed the announcement video for Kai Havertz at Kepa's wedding. So there's no reason why within the next 24 hours he can't do his medical and then hop on a flight to Asia. They film the announcement video there and we move forward. Like I get that they're going for a certain look and all that kind of stuff, and maybe they can do it on the same day as the medical. But I mean this when I say I quite literally would prefer him to be playing against Newcastle and Tottenham, and for us not to waste those additional days. Like, I'm sorry, but he needs to get to Asia. Yeah, Jess, it's a here we go. It's done. Yeah, it's done now. So the way I literally ran here once I saw Ben Jacobs' tweet, it's like how you run home to your family and hear good news. Arteta actually wanted him on that plane to Singapore last Friday. I think they'll fly him out immediately after the medical, and that's the only thing that makes sense. It's the only thing that makes sense. Martin, thank you so much for your super chat. Says thanks the gods, or thank the gods. And Shireen, thank you so much for your super chat as well. Says Eze is super necessary. If Arsenal don't beat Milan and Newcastle, they'll blame it on the humidity. I mean, here's my thing though, like this is why I don't like playing rivals or, teams that we have in the Premier League in preseason, because like preseason is not about winning necessarily. It's just about getting fitness up and, working through new tactical setups and doing stuff like that. But as soon as you're playing rivals, it means that you have to start winning them. And so the season basically starts against AC Milan. And then when we play Newcastle, if we don't win, then it's going to spiral from there. And that's why I'm like, whoever decided this is just, you will hear from my lawyers. Like, it's fucking preseason. Like, I remember how, again, Manchester United versus Arsenal, that was a terrible preseason game where neither team was fit and they were really struggling because, they had just done the Euros, and both sets of fans were like desperate for them to win. And I was like, this is just not preseason. Like, you know what I mean? Like, this is not how preseason is meant to be. We should be playing Singapore All-Stars and random teams from Asia, but here we are, it's just long. Let's see. And now we got a month for left wing. Like Mikel said, we are still short. We'll talk about that. Here we go. Get as a next, please. If the deal is done, fair play to Sporting for getting as much possible out of this deal. If we were paying 85 million for him, it still would be a bargain for us. Homie, we'll still probably get a private jet to Singapore. Yeah, I don't like the new trend of playing Prem teams in preseason. It's just so much less enjoyable. Now let's win the league title. We have depth, quality, and a goal scorer. Can't risk injuries. We need more players. As over Rodrigo. So I guess, okay, so we've spoken about that. Those of you guys who are just joining, already spoken about, here we go for Gyökeres. It's done. Cool. Now we can button that up. And I actually did a, what's it called? I made a mock lineup so that we could see kind of where we're at. So then we can start to have like the other conversations, because I feel like, when it drags for so long, you don't have as much time to like relish in the glow of a new signing, because you're instantly thinking about the next thing. Yeah. So definitely excited about Gyökeres. Need him on the plane. Well done. It was 60 something million fixed fee. So we know it's like 50 something in pounds. So, that's a good deal for a player of like his level. And so, yeah. But essentially, this is where we're at with everybody outside of like if Zinchenko, ends up staying, or, whatever additional players are still hanging around after preseason. This is kind of what we're looking at. And so, I look at this and everything from Zubamendi down looks good to me. Everything from Zubamendi up concerns me. It concerns me. Now, like I said, this video was going to be completely different before the Gyökeres here we go, because there had been so much briefing coming out from the club around Eze, and I told you guys this yesterday, that the fact that they're starting to say that we need to maybe sell, or, Arsenal haven't actually approached Crystal Palace, made me very negative about Eze getting done. If Arsenal want to sign a player, they will approach, like, we know this. And so there's been no approach for Eze. And they're saying that Arsenal may need to sell first for Trossard because now that Ethan has signed a new deal, it's changed that position from being like a priority to just maybe like a want instead of a need. And there's several things here. Big clubs don't need to sell before they get players in. They buy their players first and then sell after because they're confident. And they also don't have a one in, one out policy. If you want to build true depth and quality, you need to bring in players like Eze to be in and around the squad and stuff like that. I get that Ethan is important and they got him to sign a new deal. But, looking at the attacking midfield position, there's not that much X factor or creativity outside of Odegaard and Ethan. And they're going to share that spot. So left-hand side is still pretty much a no-go zone, and that's not hate for Marino or Rice or Martinelli or Trossard. It's just the truth. If you don't change those players, you won't change the way that it operates. And our left-hand side has been basically a cemetery since Xhaka left. So this not changing and Arsenal kind of acting like it's not going to change is a little concerning. But I'm not really surprised, if I'm honest, so this is kind of where we're at. Is this on paper a title winning group? You can let me know. I still think we're one or two short, I do feel like the narrative has kind of changed away from we needed a left wing to, yeah, well, we're getting Madueke. So what are you mad about? Madueke is not an upgrade at left wing. Just because he's an upgrade on Sterling and Reece Nelson doesn't mean that he's an upgrade on the left-hand side, which is what we were prioritizing earlier on in the window. And now it's basically the only way that that gets done is if Martinelli gets sold. And Arsenal are never really too fussed about selling players. They don't actually put them on the market and say, find a new club. It's like, well, if somebody comes and offers us 80 million, then we'll consider. And so this is probably, there's a good chance that this ends up being the team going into next season. Unless they can sell Trossard, which all links away for him have pretty much, dried up, then this is what it's going to be. Is this the unprecedented summer or the ambitious summer that we were meant to have? No, but this would not be the first time that they do a bait and switch. So I love Zubimendi. I think Gyökeres is a great signing. I'm excited for that. But that forward group of players, especially the front three, still feels like it's missing quite a bit. We really needed an upgrade at left wing. And those two players are just not good enough, so, it is what it is. But listen, I don't want to start because I know how people get. They're like, well, the window is not closed. Yeah, well, when's the last time that we've said the window is not closed and they actually pulled through? We know how Arsenal are. They are starting to brief us on the window being done after Gyökeres, so this could be very much what we're looking at. And this is why I was bullish about Gyökeres coming in, because if Gyökeres doesn't come in early, there's no chance of us not seeing Havertz, Martinelli, and Saka on the first game of the season. And if you want to drop points, then that is the front line that you would put out there. Still think we get another player. Also, I don't think we even need it anyways. I think we do. It's not about numbers. It's about quality. This attacking group is nowhere near comparable to Liverpool's or City's, and even Chelsea's now starting to look stronger than ours. And so in my mind, we do need it. It's not an extra or something that, we could use, but we don't need. We do need upgrades up front, and especially on that left-hand side. I've never seen a player avoid, the axe so many times like Martinelli. It's about quality and numbers. We definitely need one more player because we are Gyökeres injury away from some foolishness. I thought about that as well. It's like, so if Gyökeres gets injured, then we're still right back where we started. So yeah, OGN says, what a downer stream. Today is a win, but by the sound of it, you would think we lost. I mean, listen, we got the Gyökeres. We already spoke about that and celebrated that. We're 21 minutes in, and we have so much more things to talk about than just Gyökeres. Gyökeres was a signing that we have talked about ad nauseum for the last month or so because we've been in advanced negotiations for a month. So we've had a lot of news come out over the last 24 hours, and not all of it is positive. So I don't know what to tell you. You know, it's not really a downer stream. It's just, it's only a downer because you guys don't like to hear anything that's not innately positive. So, yeah, um, I don't know what to tell you. You know, how we've already celebrated Gyökeres like 3 or 4 times now. It's taken so long that it's taken the excitement away from it anyway. So, Jojo says, and we know Arsenal's track record is not good on injuries, so we need to stack the bench with quality. Jesus is literally coming back soon. Kai Havertz is also there. We need a decent right back and use Benjamin as a backup center back. We actually don't need any more defenders whatsoever. Arsenal are more than stacked in the defensive positions, and quite frankly, they've really just kind of failed to improve the attack so much that going out there and buying another right back would be almost comical at this point, even like borderline offensive. So, yeah, no. Jesus literally coming back doesn't mean anything. He's injury prone and he'll probably get injured again, you know. So we 100% need another attacker, but Arsenal are kind of already briefing that that's probably not going to happen. And so that's why I'm asking, is this a suitable team? Is this good enough to actually win something? Of course, Gyökeres is going to add a lot. And we're hoping that Zubamendi adds a lot. I just still feel like we're one player short. Trossard, Martinelli is just not good enough, you know. So, and we said that after the season ended. So why the narrative is changing now, I have no clue. Need a winger. Gabriel Jesus is gone in January. Let's see. Cowboy says we need Eze now in place of Martinelli. Jesus is finished at the top level of football. I am relieved that we got Gyökeres, but now go get Eze. But that's what I'm saying. Like, I'm just being honest that because it took so long, there's like an element of, okay, let's just go to the next thing. You know, Zubamendi took so long that there was like no hype around the signing. And that's not necessarily Arsenal's fault, but that's just how it is. You know, when you're linked to a player for like a year and then you finally get it done and it drags, then you're like, okay, so what's the next thing? You know, after that. So I feel relief over Gyökeres, but I also just kind of feel like, okay, it's done. Now what? Strikers can drag teams into titles all by themselves. Eduardo almost did it for us in the 2008-2009 season, Jess. I get we need other signings, but this is huge. It is huge. We just need more still. You know, I just look at the other teams and how they've improved so much and they've added so much quality. And I just don't feel like our quality is like they already had strikers, you know, and we're just finally getting a one and they're adding, you know, the Wirtzes to their team, Shirkies, you know, Marmouches, and we're just like okay with Martinelli, you know. So yeah, we really need to get those sales through the door. And they're already kind of briefing about, you know, Kivior staying, Zinchenko staying. And so that really just leaves basically Trossard. That's probably going to open up the spot and the money in order for us to go get something else. So we better hope that somebody comes through with a Trossard bid. Let's just remember Gyökeres won't take pens if he scores 17 goals in the league. I think that's good. You know, Arteta's talking about 7 or 8 teams can win the league. And I think we're all kind of looking forward to this league season as being probably one of the more difficult ones. You know, there's going to be a bigger gap between that top group and mid-table. And so it may be the case that we actually need a lot more points, which will mean we'll need a lot more goals. And so we'll see what Gyökeres, how he's going to improve us in terms of the bottom line. But I would rather be over prepared than just about prepared or just about at the edge. I don't think that this is over prepared. I think this is kind of still a hopeful lineup. still a hopeful group. 25 or more goals, 20 mil would get Trossard sold, hopefully, but somebody has to actually want him. Let's say we need more signings. Now that Liverpool want Isak, Arsenal needs Sesko, Rodrigo. He needs to use Martinelli better and stop telling him to check and pass backwards and blame Arteta. Well, we definitely need to play a different tactics. We need to switch it. Like whatever you're doing for the last 2 seasons, throw it in the trash. Go back to good attacking football principles. Play fast. This team really lacks flair, but if you want to mitigate or compensate for a lack of flair, you need to play more attacking football, fast, dynamic, brave attacking football. I wish Serie A teams had some money. We could offload some players. There's no need to hype around any player signing. All that needs to happen is for them to deliver on the pitch. We went from Eze and Rodrigo to we will be lucky to just get Eze. This club know how to lower the expectations. But I told you guys that. I told you guys that a couple of days ago, that expect the briefings from the Gunner blogs and the Ornsteins and the Charles Wattses around, all of a sudden, Noni Madueke is not just the right wing. They're also looking at him as a left wing option. So he's going to play a lot more. Arsenal are so happy with the fee, that kind of stuff. Once they start talking about they're just so happy with it, and you look at the underlying metrics, he's this and that, they're basically just telling you that this is the signing. This is it. They rate Madueke very highly. Arteta rates him very highly, and this is our winger signing, which you should have known that. Common sense would have told you that. We're not spending 50 million on somebody that's not going to play on the left ever. But my fear is that we'll get halfway through the season and there'll be 3 options for the left, and none of them will be, it'll just be like, okay, well, what are we going to go with today? Which is essentially what we had with Trossard and Martinelli. We couldn't really figure out which one was actually better because they both had it was kind of just different, but not really better. So yeah, the Madueke thing is just, they pulled the rug out from underneath us, and they've done the same thing, with Eze. I'll read you guys what Hand of Arsenal has said about the Eze thing, which again, it's not really that surprising. It's just, Arsenal just don't have a level of ambition that other top teams have. And we pretend it's ambition, but really we're just about doing enough. Eze's current state of play, his future was linked to Ethan's, hence my statement, until a formal approach is made, proceed with caution. Since the talks, glowing references from Arsenal players, Arteta is obsessed and directly communicated this to the board. My understanding is personal terms have never been an issue. One source said he would sign a 5-year deal tomorrow. Furthermore, I also understand that he has told Chelsea and Bayern his preference is Arsenal, but how long can a player wait? Informal dialogue has taken place with Palace, but nothing further as of today. Arsenal will focus on sales, and hopefully the sale of Trossard opens the door. The hope is Andrea makes sales and picks up the phone to Steve Parrish. If anything develops further, I will be sure to update you. It is well known to the industry that Parrish is an honorable and straightforward. He would use the money to reinvest into Selhurst Park and other club matters. The deal is there to be done. That is all I have on Eze specifically. Let me be clear. We have to sign Eze. We can't go into another season short again. Here's my thing too. There was a report the other day as well that had said that Arteta had successfully convinced the club. He had successfully convinced the club to give us more money. So if we still have to sell to get Eze, what was the budget to begin with? If he was successful in getting more money, what was the budget to begin with? Because we've barely done anything. I know that we've spent 200 million, but in terms of top level signings, we've done nothing yet. Backup goalkeeper, Norgard, and Mascara are just, we've done nothing yet, really, so we've gotten to our main signings and now we need to sell. So I get that 200 million is a lot, but it's not really a lot when you haven't actually done anything yet. So it's just, wild, So yeah, if Arteta had to convince them to spend more, then what the fuck was the budget to begin with? You know, because it definitely was not anywhere near a war chest if we were begging for coin now. But hopefully, let's see, if Berta can make some sales, because I do think we have to get Eze. I don't see a world where this group is enough. We need more than enough. So yeah, I think we need to get Eze. So let's see, what happens. But I'm gonna need to hear Trossard is of interest or something, because it's just all gone incredibly quiet. And if I was Trossard, I'd be looking at it like, okay, well, they bought a striker, so my route to the 9 position is closed. They have gotten another winger who will most likely be used on the left as well. So my minutes at left wing are going to be cut short. And left center mid is probably out now because Marino is there and Rice is there, and they're going to be, in those positions. So maybe I should go and try to find somewhere else to be at, or else it's just going to be, you know, you're just going to be sitting there. And I like Trossard, but if I was him, I'd be looking for a new place and I'd be desperate, but nobody's really desperate to leave Arsenal for some reason. So you have to like beg them to leave. So yeah. Let's see. Just does Lord Cronky live in LA? Can you slap a hoe? He does not. I think they live in Colorado. Oh my God, MLS reaction to Gyökeres. Here we go. Where is the reaction? Did he like direct me to where I need to look? Arsenal may have ambition to bring in more players, but it's whether they can spread those payments out, and teams want money up front to replace Eze. But that's my thing. Then that's a lack of ambition. If the club is not willing to give us the money, up front, so we can make sure that we get it, and then we can just sell Trossard later, that's not ambition to me. Ambition to me is, making sure that the club has the money available, and we have to do so many payments and shit. It's just like, that's not ambition. Oh, he really did react. Oh, that's crazy. He's so cute.
See the picture, fam.
Oh, their guy.
See the picture. See the picture, fam.
Oh my gosh. They've been suffering. They knew they needed a real striker. They've been suffering for Miles was only did it for one season. So now he's like, please bring, please. So yeah, let's see. Here we go. It's that one. They've been starved. Lewis Kelly is go. Imagine Arsenal bottling the league again. You can't bottle something that you don't have. It's funny. I've never really heard the word bottle until I started, working in this industry and talking to a lot of British people. But even I know that bottling is not just playing in the league and not winning it. You have to have it in your grasp and then lose it. So it's weird that I would have to tell you guys that. Trossard is an experienced Premier League player. He's okay with not starting, and he's a good super sub. You need players like him. You'll create a problem within the squad if you only get first squad players. Who told you guys that? Who told you that Trossard, one, is okay not starting? What about Trossard has shown you that he's okay not starting? Because the Trossard that I know is not happy with not starting. It's very obvious with his body language that he's not excited about not starting. And you'll create a problem within the squad if you only get first squad players. So do Liverpool have a problem with people agitating? Is Szoboszlai going to pitch a fit because Wirtz came in? Does City have a problem with buying so many first team players? Do they buy backups? This is a narrative that we have concocted to relieve the Cronkies from needing to buy quality players. We bought enough squad players, by the way. The last 2 summers have been a lot of squad players have come in. The Marinos have come in, players like that. You've bought Norgard, you've bought Kepa, you've Mascara, you've done a lot of that, so, and it hasn't done anything for us in terms of the bottom line. So no, we're definitely in a position where we need to create a more competitive environment in those attacking positions, because not only is there a lack of quality, but maybe even the lack of competitiveness is making people feel like they can have poor season after poor season and still start, because they are. So yeah, no, I'm not buying that. That's an Arsenal thing that we've made up in our heads, that they'll agitate if we have too many starting players. Arteta even spoke about that, by the way, and I actually want to bring this up because for everybody that's trying to create a narrative around starters versus bench players, and this is the way to go, Arteta actually spoke up against that. So if you're using that argument to make it okay for the club, Arteta doesn't even want that scenario. Let me actually find it really quick, because it's interesting, because I'm like, your manager doesn't feel that way, so why do you? I don't get it. I don't get it. So where's this Arsenal tier 1 conversation? Because they were talking about tier 1s and shit, and Arteta wants something different. I don't know if I can click on this because I don't think I have a subscription. Let's see. Yeah, I don't have a subscription. Let's see. Essentially, tier 1 players. So just let's see if I can find somebody that took some of this information and put it in a easier form, because I don't think he did. Let's see. Because if not, I'll just give you guys the Cliff Notes version that I saw. Because Arteta was basically talking about the fact that he wants to get rid of this whole thing with Arsenal about tier 1 and tier 2 players, tier 3. I don't want to pay. I don't want to pay for it, especially if they're just going to aggregate and give me the information. It was Gunner Blog. Okay, so essentially, Arteta doesn't feel like we've had tier 1, tier 2, and tier 3 players. Tier 1 is like your starters, and then you have could be starters, maybe like competitive squad players, and then you have that bottom tier. That bottom tier is like players that are never going to play. They're just in the squad. And so Arteta wants to get rid of this tier system and try to have a more competitive squad that has, the kind of like other teams, because he mentioned that other teams have those types of situations where they have competitive teams where you don't actually know who's going to start, or it's a question because everybody pretty much can start, or a big group of people could actually start. And he wants to do away with this cronky thing of tier 1s and tier 2s. Zubimendi and, Noni are tier 1 players. So they're looked at as starting players. And Arteta wants to do away with that. And this is how we've gotten into this whole, there's a bench player, and there's a bench player. There's a bench player. He's a bench player. We have starters and bench players. But we've seen that with injuries, the drop off from the starter to the backup is too vast. And so we need to close that gap. The only place in the squad where that doesn't exist as much is at the back. So when you have Timber and White and, the players that we have back there, it's not as vast. But as you get further up the pitch, you can see that if you get beyond Saka, it's peak. If you get beyond, the first couple of players, it's not looking good, So yeah, I think these tier 2s and tier 1s and all this, I don't know how other teams do it, but I just, when you already have Soboslai and McAllister and Gravenberch, and you go out there and you buy Wirtz, I don't think you're worried about tier 1s and tier 2s. You want to make sure that you have a competitive squad, and so not only are some of our tier 1s probably not at the level, but what's actually behind that, so it's interesting. But for everybody that's, trying to justify it, you don't need to, because Arteta doesn't even want it. So it's not just fans wanting better players, it's actually Arteta, so yes, did you see Miles reacting to Gyökeres? Here we go. We actually put it up on the screen not too long ago. Hey Jess, Gyökeres should be his signing be completed. Hey, Jess, Gyökeres, should his signing be completed, would be Arsenal's first signing of a natural number 9 type striker since Aubameyang in 2018, 7.5 years ago, which is kind of ridiculous, if we're honest. Just what happened to Eze deal being separate from us signing a left wing. They did the old bait and switch like they always do. And they may have just seen all the flames that were out there about Nani and told David Ornstein and these guys to report this, only to renege on it a couple days later. Let's see. It's the fan base that have that mentality in tier 1 and tier 2 players. Let's see. What's this nonsense about selling Martinelli and replace him with what? He is a good player and we need squad depth. Some of our fan base has no clue, honestly. Well, if the reality is the only way that we get a top level left wing is if Martinelli needs to go, then I'm more than happy to make that sacrifice. So I guess I have no clue. You know, there's a big gap, in my opinion, between Saka and Martinelli, and the type of squad that we should be building is one where when you look at the left-hand side, you don't feel like you're looking at something completely different than the right. And currently that's what we have, so I guess I have no clue. But yeah, if it came down to it and they said that in order for us to get a Rodrigo or something better, we would have to move Martinelli on, I would. So yeah. I feel like I have a lot less patience for Martinelli because we all said at the beginning of the window that we needed a left wing, and now people are changing the narrative because they know it's not going to happen. And I'm not doing revisionism on Martinelli. I'm just not. He's been he's been off it for about 2 seasons now. When Yeri wanting promises on game time and people shrugged it off. I mean, to be honest, I'll be really honest with you guys. I think they're using Ethan as a pawn in this whole, well, now that we've re-signed him, we don't need an attacking mid. I actually do not think that, first of all, like getting Eze doesn't necessarily mean that Ethan can't get playing time, and it just feels like an excuse not to fill the squad with more quality. So I don't really get it, to be honest. Not when Marino is there. When Yeri didn't, that's a lie. His dad is his agent, and he said he didn't. Rodrigo without a squad player like Martinelli kind of moving sideways. Martinelli is not the problem here, and Arsenal need good depth. I mean, yeah, if it came down to it and it was, okay, we'll get rid of Martinelli, and then so if we brought in like a Rodrigo level player, and then our 3 winger options are Madueke, Saka, and that up level player, that's better to me than Martinelli, Saka, and Madueke. So the option is Martinelli, Madueke, and Saka, or Rodrigo, Madueke, and Saka, and that is better. So absolutely, I'm selling him tomorrow. He's 18 years old, man. He was overplayed. I just don't think that, I just think it's like a very convenient excuse not to go get Eze, especially since Arteta's pushing for it. Arteta wants Eze, so he clearly feels like we need more quality in those attacking areas, which we do. We don't have to pretend like we have enough quality and that bringing in Eze means that there won't be any playing time for Ethan. There's plenty of games to go around. We never really rotate. We don't rotate, so our players get ran into the ground. Other teams have this level of depth in their team, and we're the only ones that make excuses for not having it. It's bullshit. You could have Eze in this team as well, it would lessen Marino's playing time, but I think we all want that at this point because we know that he's not a level raiser. I'd happily make Ethan and Eze options at attacking mid, and with Odegaard and then also Rice in there, and drop Marino down to the squad player, to the 3rd option. Martinelli is a good player, but he's not improving, and we can all see that. Keep Trossard and sell Martinelli. Oh, I thought it was much higher. I would rather have Trossard than Martinelli. Brighton want 55 million euros for Matoma at the most. He doesn't want to leave, though. I can't do another season of watching Martinelli every week. Please, Mikel. We should keep both Trossard and Martinelli, and by Eze, Vieira should go. I say sell Martinelli because he'll bring more money. My mindset on transfers is this: go for your top priorities and try to sign them before worrying about who they will replace. Rafael Leao is the best replacement for Martinelli. Do not like Martinelli at left wing at all. Well, this is kind of what we're looking at here. So, you know, it's we said at the beginning of the window, most of us agreed that left wing and striker were the priority. And so I'm not going to let people pull the wool and start changing the narrative now that they know it's not going to happen and saying, well, Martinelli is good. What's the problem? I had somebody saying today that, what are you complaining about? Madueke is an improvement on Reece Nelson. And I'm like, we didn't say we need an improvement on Reece Nelson. We need an improvement on Martinelli. We haven't updated and got a better option in attack. We've got different players here and there. If you really deep it, this being his attacking group, he inherited two of those players. So essentially, and he inherited two, and then one of the other ones was actually meant to be a midfielder. So in his tenure, Arteta has bought Gyökeres, Madueke, and Trossard. He actually hasn't, outside of Gyökeres, he has not bought a single player that is a true upgrade of whoever already existed in that position. So we need to do more. Arteta loves Martinelli for his work rate, and that's why we'll never prosper. We're buying players based on work rate and not what they can do. Hi, Jess. Greetings to the Gyökeres. I'm definitely happy that Gyökeres is finally done. It did feel like it drew out just enough for it to dampen the mood just ever so slightly. But it is exciting to know that we'll actually have a true striker. We need that badly. And I'm kind of happy now that, like, knowing we're not going to get a left wing, or we're most likely not going to get one, I think it's actually a good thing that it ended up being Gyökeres, because if it had ended up being Sesko, we wouldn't see our center forward. It would be taking forever. If that makes sense, for Sesko to start to play minutes, because Arteta would have eased him in. So it's actually a better thing now that it was Gyökeres over Sesko. If we had gotten Sesko and Noni, that's way worse, So just remember, negative news about needing to sell to buy another attacking player, then conveniently, here we go for Gyökeres. Yeah, that left-hand side was and is still not strong. That way, Martinelli work rate is important. The only reason I fear for keeping Martinelli is his work rate. That's all fans use his attributes. Then that is exactly why we should keep him. What? The only reason I hear for keeping Martinelli is his work rate. That's all fans use as his attributes. Then that is exactly why we should keep him. I don't know what you mean. I don't know if you're advocating for or against Martinelli there. I'm still preparing myself for Kai to start at center forward on match week 1. Sesko and Noni is just crazy. Let's see. I'm so happy for the Gyökeres deal. Arsenal needed a true center forwards for years. We finally got one, and it will pay off. Trophies are coming. I hope so. There needs to be trophies at the end of this. Like, at the end of the day, you need to start winning something, and it's going to be even tougher than last season and the season prior, because other teams are improving so much. There's 4 opportunities, and you haven't been to a final in years, so this is the year. You got to pass because of injuries, but this season it's not going to pass, so he's going to need to win something. Hopefully you have the team to do it. Basic Footy says the league is shaking right now. I definitely think we look like a more serious prospect with Gyökeres for sure. Thank the Lord, finally Gyökeres over the line. 100%. It was, it was done, but it wasn't done. That's what was more frustrating. It's like, it's not like we were still looking, or, we'd been in advanced negotiations since, I think, like the 4th of July, because I remember being at my parents' house. So, and it's the 22nd. So it's been a minute, but I'm glad it's over. We have to win the league. CL is a toss-up. I think the league is going to be even more difficult than the Champions League. I think we have a much easier time in the Champions League because we don't have to come up against deep blocks. And, we were able to get to a semifinal without a real striker. Whereas in the Premier League, we really struggled. to beat Bournemouth and Brentford and teams like that. I actually think we have a better chance of winning the Champions League because you don't have to be the best team. You just have to perform on the day, where in the league, you quite literally have to be the best team over 38 games. I don't see it for the league. I don't see it for the league at all. Yeah, in first they are haggling over 4 million, then 2 million. Geez, Arsenal is almost like an anticlimactic. Now the deal is done. It's official. The dreaded day of Eddie are over. I think we could win a cup. Not that I would be happy with it, but look at the recent winners. I have a little hope for major trophies. I have little hope for major trophies. Yeah, I think we 100% should and need to win a cup at the barest minimum. It's not good enough, but I just don't see how you get out of the season without winning something. So you must, buckle down in December and January. Don't go out of the cup sad like you always do. Actually perform in games that matter, and we'll see what we get. Sandiel says Liverpool will cook us next season. They are miles ahead. Martinelli is a winger, third striker, so he is untouchable. He shouldn't be, though. Kwame says Eze and Rodrigo next, please, Arsenal. We're not getting we may, if we get one of those, I'd be shocked at this stage. I think we should try to sign Eze and loan Rodrigo. Doubt that. I think actually Rodrigo looks like he's trying to stay. He still wants to stay. I know they'd be open to letting him go, but again, like the key thing was always that he needed to say that he wanted to go, and he still has not said that. So, and if he goes anywhere, I think he goes Liverpool because they'll have the money. So yeah. How is selling Trossard connected to Eze? Is it because of the money or a place in the squad, which means he comes to play in the squad? I mean, it's just, Arteta saying we're short in numbers, but then some people are saying, well, it's obvious that you have to sell Trossard because look at all the players that we have. You need to sell to get an open spot. And I'm like, not really, not really. You don't need to. What the fuck? So I just think they don't have the money, and they're using Ethan and Trossard as some sort of excuse. But the reality is, if you wanted to, you would. If you wanted to, you would make the money available for the release clause or whatever payment structure, and Eze would be an Arsenal player. It's having to sell Trossard a one in, one out. Nobody else operates like that, and also this whole Ethan thing is just like, yeah, because if you say that, then fans will be like, oh, well, it just makes sense because you don't want to block his path. But it's just like, you're not blocking his path. We play like 60 games a season. All right. We have the money, just being tight. Eze and Javi Simmons would be perfect signings. Lakanga, Vieira, Nelson, Zinchenko, Jesus can all be sold or go on loan. The only problem is we're just really bad at selling. As a club, like in terms of the way we sell and the way we buy, very much gives mid-table team. We have one out, one in, because people say it's a one in, one out. It's actually not a one in, one out. It's a one out, one in, which is different. So we sell like a mid-table club and we buy like a mid-table club. And players like Lakanga and Vieira, Nelson, they're hard to get off the books. You gave Nelson a big contract and he has like 1 year left. So what's the incentive of him leaving? Go on a loan and then go on a free. So there's no incentive for him to go, just like Zinchenko. They're already saying that he's basically soft launching him staying and running his deal down, which you should have sold him in January when BVB was wanting him for 20 million. You guys kept him. He didn't play barely at all, second half of the season because Arteta had him behind Tierney in the pecking order, and now you can't sell him. So there you go. Vieira probably alone, Lakanga probably alone. So yeah, we're going to struggle to sell those players, obviously. Yeah, we're rubbish at selling, so better to cut our losses and move on from these players. Arteta was ruthless with Tomiyasu because I guess he was an easy target. Wish we could terminate Jesus's contract and save loads of wages. What are you doing? Let's see. Arsenal, collect your crazy wages, walk away for free. The window hasn't been open that long. Plenty of time left to get other deals over the line. Sure, I'd love to have players in right now, but take time to do it right. I would just say, young Gouda, that if I had tangible evidence of Arsenal, getting to the stage of the window and start talking about needing to sell to buy new players, and that actually helped us, like, you know, we sold a couple of players and then those good big signings came in, I would agree with you. But we have it's like a historical thing. Like, we have receipts from multiple windows where we get to this stage and all of the business just stops. So I'm just going to be really honest with you guys that until I see that change, it's going to be hard for me to believe, because I've been here before and you've been here before. It's very rare, if not, I've never really seen it. We buy players and then it's just stops. All the business stops because now we're in the sell mode. And now that we have to sell and we're terrible at selling, it's just never really been the case. That case in point would be like the window that we bought Havertz. Everybody was, calm down, calm down. The window is still has so much time. We still have so much time to get Kudus and Xavi Simons. And Kudus waited for us, and we could not sell Eddie Nketiah or ESR. Mind you, then Arteta went on not to play either of those players that much during the season, but we kept them because we had these high valuations. And then we ended up not getting Kudus. So I'm going to need a window to happen where we do sell Trossard and Eze comes in. Until then, I'm not really hearing all this like, oh, well, the window is still open. There's still so much time. There's quite literally never been a time where we've gotten to a place in this window and it wasn't over. Get me? So that's what I'm saying. Is the Gyökeres transfer confirmed? I mean, it's a here we go, so that's as confirmed as I guess you can get. I know people are still like, well, that's not done, but yeah, like, we're at the stage now where it is pretty much done, so um breaking Victor Gyokeres to Arsenal. Here we go. Verbal agreement in place between all parties involved. Sporting accept last bid from Arsenal, 63.5 million euros plus 10 million euros. Agent will reduce his commission. Gyokeres will sign a 5-year deal at Arsenal. He only wants Arsenal. Arsenal have spent circa 736 million since Arteta's arrival in December 2019. This summer is likely going to take Arsenal's total spend under Arteta to 940 million after the 6 signings. Add Eze and it's over 1 billion. Well, that's what it's going to take for us to win stuff. You have to keep spending. There is no stop spending. It doesn't work. Gyokeres and Zubi levels us up even if we don't sign anyone else. Ended up with Sterling. Do you accept a verbal agreement from the Sporting guy, though? Mascara at Heathrow earlier today likely will be announced on the site later today. We would have been working on other deals by now if we were getting someone else. This is what I'm saying. It's like, I get it. Like, in theory, it's like, calm down. The window is still open, but that feels very like rich and kind of disingenuous and like, come on, you've been here before. If we have to sell to buy anybody else, it's unlikely that somebody else will come in. Maybe Berta will change things, but until I see it, I'm not going to be sitting here like believing like it's going to happen. Like, come on. Still better than Ben Ayoun and Park Chu-young. Other teams spend more. They do. We can't just not spend. Every team is still improving. There's so much money in the Premier League. We need to get better at selling, and the Cronkies need to pull the finger out and at least make more money available up front, because it would just help us if we had more money up front. Even if we spent the same amount, we could get better players. The players that we end up having to go to Chelsea or folding and going to Chelsea because they offer us the opportunity to only spend like $2 up front. So then you can go get a Malik Fofana instead. You can go get a Akliouche instead, but you end up with Nani Madueke. Freddie Ljungberg, be so happy. I think he needs to be in the announcement video. I think he needs to be in the announcement video. I would love that. I love Freddie Ljungberg. Bets on another Sterling level deadline day signing because we can't sign Eze. If they do that, I have nothing for Arsenal right now. You need to win something, and you're not helping yourself by not spending, you know? So, I don't think it's unreasonable to ask for a league title after spending 1 billion, and please, I'm not hearing about Chelsea and United. 8 out of 10 window, signed a DM, top striker, 4 clear primary backup upgrades. 4 clear primary backup upgrades, okay, that's, yeah. Problem is Liverpool signing demands a 10 out of 10 window. Exactly. It's like, at face value, our window is not as bad as we've had windows in the past. It's decent. It's just not gonna make us. I mean, Liverpool just walked the league last season, and I get it that we had injuries, but we were done in, like, December. The league was finished, so if they're already ahead of us and we've only done a certain amount, especially in the positions that matter. I think that's what people are I feel like that's what people are kind of missing or purposefully being obtuse about is it's you can bring all the backups that you want. We need upgrades in the starting 11. And there's one clear upgrade that needed to happen. We're getting Gyökeres, which is great, but that left wing is just glaring. It's just glaring. So you can talk about backups all you want, but it's at the end of the day, it's Kepa, it's a backup center back. That's great, but like it's a backup center back. It's Norgard, come on. Is the medical going to take a week? They said within the next 24 hours. Also, Jess, if Gyökeres gets the 10 shirt, then that would mean it's even less likely to get someone like Eze. However, if he's given the 14, then 10. Is there, which Eze wears currently, or is it a reach? I mean, I kind of get what you're saying. I think that makes a lot of sense. I think Gyökeres is going to ask for the 14. There's no 17, which is you know, a number that he's taken in the past. And I just think that when you come out and you say things like, I'm just as good as Kane and Holland, you're not going to come to Arsenal and take a big ass number. This is, to me, this is some people don't view it this way, but I think it's because they are kind of just weird about Kai Havertz, but this is a marquee signing. Like, it may not be in fee, but it is in terms of the impact it's going to have on our squad. So, Gyökeres to me, and I could be wrong, but I think even if Arteta tries to do the Havertz and him sharing the position, I just think the amount of goals that he's going to score and the confidence that he has, because again, we have two of the most emotional players playing center forward for us. That is probably the one position outside of maybe goalkeeper that you cannot be emotionally unstable. You need to be somebody that your confidence doesn't drop every 5 seconds. You cannot be the type of player that needs an arm around your shoulder. And both of those players are like that. They do not find the confidence from within. They need a lot of TLC. And so just him with his level of confidence, and if he bangs in a couple of goals, you're not going to be able to keep up the gimmick for very long. And so this is like a marquee type of signing for us, especially for a club that, like somebody had already said, I think it was actually you, that we haven't had a true striker in like 7 years. So I just don't think Gyökeres is coming to take a big number and to share time with Kai Havertz. Even if that's what they're going to try to do, I just feel like he's going to force his way into that starting position, and we'll just let the chips fall where they lie, but I don't see him coming in and saying, "Yeah, okay, I'll take the 30." Yeah, you're gonna save that 14 for someone else. Like, no. If Eddie had enough balls to go up there and ask for the 14, I'm pretty sure Victor Gyökeres at his big age is going to go up there and ask for that 14. The 10 shirt will probably just be vacant. Um, um, let's see. Appreciate your take on our transfer history, but isn't Gyökeres a sign that Berta is doing something different? Let's see what else he does in the window. I'm betting on one more big signing on the wing. I hope so. A 17-year-old Yamal played 50 games last season. Why can't Ethan? This is our Van Dijk moment. after Gyökeres, sell Trossard, buy Rodrigo, and let's bench Martinelli comfortably. Eze could be a good addition, but I think we ain't short in the middle of the park. We're not short in numbers, but we're short in creativity, flair, quality, dribbling, ball carrying. We're short in the middle, but fair enough. Look at the reaction of the fans, just show how huge the signing is. I agree with MM. Like, I agree with MM that this is not a uh, a Trossard signing in January. This is not somebody that's just going to come and play a role. There's a lot of, what they would call like the top gooners or, the positive kind of side that are so enamored with Havertz that they're trying to convince themselves that this is just adding squad depth. And some of them even have said that they feel like Havertz is just going to start and Gyökeres is just there to come off of the bench. No, baby. No. 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 Like, nah. I'm so sorry, but no, you surely not, so Um, I'd say we're short in the middle of the park. Creativity is our biggest problem. We have one senior attacking mid, and there's no evidence to suggest that Arteta will give Wanyeri lots of minutes centrally. I think people think short as in like numbers, and they see like, well, we have Marino and Rice and Odegaard and Ethan, so that's more than enough. But when I think about the profiles missing and the quality that's missing, we are short in midfield in certain like kind of I would say traits. I'm still not sure what Marino brings in midfield, and maybe there is a second season Marino that we've yet to see. He needed to settle in, and it's gonna take him a full season, but what I've seen in midfield so far, those are not the qualities that I feel like are something that we're desperate for, that's gonna be the difference between us winning those tough games or not. What he did up front is completely separate to kind of how I felt about him in midfield, which was yeah, it would be really nice to have 2 Declans in this midfield because once you move Declan to the 6 and Marino's playing left 8, you can feel that there's something missing there. And I've said multiple times that I also feel like I overestimated what his impact was gonna be. So, I know that he's a Spain international and he plays well for them, and I get that, but, like, I'm just saying for Arsenal, just looking at the way he plays with us, I'm not sure that the qualities that he adds in midfield are things that are going to be the difference between us winning and not. He has some nice qualities, but for the most part, I prefer him at center forward. So midfield we need some stuff. Like and I feel like that's evident by, Hand of Arsenal is saying that Arteta is like really wants Eze. And I don't think he would want Eze if he felt like Marino and Rice was enough. So yeah, Victor like an assassin when he eyeballs you from a distance, like those Cold War films at the Garespo. Shirt sales off the scale now. Glock 9 is here. It's going to be so interesting, because we just haven't had a striker in like a million years, so I'm just gassed about, you know, seeing somebody with that true striker confidence come into this team. This team for me lacks personality up front, where we have real, like, real men at the back, the Salibas, the Gabriels, the Timbers, these types of players, MLS, real men at the back that don't give a fuck. Like they are going to show up and make the difference. I think about like Saliba's goal against Fulham, when we needed the second goal and we didn't get it. But in order to equalize, it was Saliba that stood up. How many times have we seen Gabrielle standing up? How many top performances have we seen Timber have? MLS has the mentality of a top quality player. As you go for Declan Rice as well, but he plays DM or plays a little bit more of like a, defensive role. What I mean is the players up front are the more emotional confidence players that confidence is right on the ground at times. Talking Martinelli, Havertz, and Jesus. Having somebody with the mentality of a Gabrielle up front is going to change our lives, genuinely. I don't see any weakness in Arsenal starting 11. This group will get a trophy this year. Pray that nobody gets injured. Well, if you got to pray that nobody gets injured, our squad is not strong enough. He may very well be coming off of the bench in a few times. Jess, I rate you, but I cannot believe you wanted Sesko over this gunman. Listen, I said I'd want both, though. I feel like in the end of the day, I didn't have a big, like, Gyökeres is shit, Sesko is amazing. I had my reasons for Sesko, for sure, and I stand on those reasons, but ultimately, I'm still happy about Gyökeres because I rate the kid, so it is what it is. Nobody is bullying this guy out of shooting the ball. Yes, 27, the magic number. What a bargain. Berta knew he scores. That's what Arsenal need, not rocket science. I mean, I'm actually really happy that we have, Gyökeres and we have Berta, because had Berta not been here, Ollie Watkins would be our striker right now. So yeah, I'm glad he's here. 100, yes, excited. Let's see. He may be very well coming off the bench. I read that. Let's see. I prefer Marino at center forward. He's physically good, but I don't trust his concentration in midfield. Yeah, he's just the type of player that the closer he gets to your goal, the more likely that he's going to make a mistake that's going to cost you. You've seen it multiple times. You saw it with Arsenal and you also saw it with Spain, that it was, he gets dispossessed at the top of your box a little bit too much. And if you have a player at left center mid that cannot help you in build up in this Arsenal team, I think that hurts you, so yeah, that's where you get the box crasher thing, because you really don't want either one of Kai Havertz or Marino coming deep, at the top of the box to grab the ball. So yeah, yeah, that left center mid position has been a little bit of a headache. I hope Arteta will not try to force Gyökeres to fit his style of play by making him do some defensive duties. Let's see. So yeah, I'm hoping for a Marino second season shows why we were willing to spend. How much did we spend on him? I feel like it was a good fee of 30 something for him, that he's not just like some person that we'd rather play in a different position. But yeah. Zubi is a huge upgrade on Xhaka. He has manners to start for a start cough. Zubi is a huge upgrade on Xhaka. He has manners for a start cough. Okay, I get what you're saying. 30 something, which is peanuts in this market. It's peanuts in this market, but for a player of his level, and then also he had 1 year left on his deal, that felt a little like much. Like, we sold Xhaka with 1 year left for like 21 million or something like that, and we bought Marino, who's not a better player, for more. So just for context, Charles Watt says Arsenal are targeting the Spurs game for Gyökeres. Come on, man. Get him in. It's just one game, too. Like, you got to get him in for the Newcastle game, but I guess, he really needed a full preseason, but it is what it is. It's so funny seeing MLS's gas. He only played for us, like, started one season, and he was acting like he suffered. It's so funny. Gyökeres, Sesko. Why prefer Gyökeres? Even if Gyökeres arrives to the stadium with 10 minutes left of the game, put him in. Random, which midfielders would you trade Rice for? I mean, none really. I mean, I love Rice, so not really any, to be honest. I mean, if I could go back in time and stop Arteta from this galaxy brain idea and tear up the papers, I would. I just think there's an easier way to play him at left center mid, and that's in a double pivot, and we wouldn't really be freaking out about it. But Yeah, I don't know if I would trade Rice in for anyone because in my mind, he's a world-class midfielder, one of the top midfielders in the world. So why would I want to switch him out? You know, so Xhaka got 7 red cards plus what about that cost us games? Listen, don't get me started on Xhaka. People are saying maybe Rodri. Watch his smile when he meets Gyökeres. They're gonna firm it. Let's see. Let's see. I mean, you guys actually think it's AI? I don't know if I think it's AI. Maybe it is, but it feels like a lot to go in and make a fake video that came from Josh Nichols' account. That
See
feels
the picture, fam.
yeah, look at yeah, that feels pretty like that's doing a lot. I think it's real. Let me go see. Yeah, I don't know. It feels like a lot. Maybe it's fake. I don't know. I don't think so. Doesn't look fake. It's too grainy and shit. I don't know, maybe. It's like, are they in there? Anyways. So yeah. Right. Mascara is joining the Arsenal squad right now. I think so. People are saying that they saw him at the airport, but we know he's like on his way to Singapore, so that's good. When people argue that Gyökeres only scores in transitions and won't fit the system, the rebuttal is we need to change our system and we need to score more on transitions. But also, you know, there was a comp going around that showed Gyökeres in against settled defenses. I'm so sorry, but the amount of Arsenal tacticos that have lied on this man's name is very like this is borderline sinister. You know, they're saying he can't play against settled defenses and they're so worried about what he's going to be like against these back lines. And I'm sorry, some of those finishes reminded me of Kane. Like some of the finishes looked like Kane. He has good box movement. It's just very strange. Like he also scored quite a few goals too, because some of that was like from Coventry, some of it was like at the beginning of his time at Sporting. And I was just like, really? Like the thing is good players will adapt to your system, you know, because there's very few players that have to play against the settled defenses that we have to. The way that we play encourages teams to do it. I don't see any other teams play against settled defenses like we do, except for like City, you know. So, and Holland never had to play against those types of settled defenses in the Bundesliga, but that hasn't stopped him from scoring those goals. So, I think people are doing um, way too much like weird shit to try to if you can concoct a reason why we need Mudweki and why he's a good signing, I'm pretty sure you can accept Gyökeres. You know, and that's the thing is they can they can make an argument for Kai Havertz and Medwecki, but they just can't see it for Gyökeres. And I'm like, we need to get away from this perfect signing, you know, needs to be some young kid that they can project upon instead of they don't want a player that's already good and we know what their limitations and their strengths are. They need a player that they can build up with their delusion and, you know, kind of concoct the reason and write long threads and, you know, that kind of stuff. And it's just like Gyökeres is just such the opposite of some of the players that we have bought because you don't need to squint to see it. You don't have to squint. You just look at them and you know that they're good. You don't have to think about the future or anything. You know exactly what he is, you know? And so, and that's hard for the tacticos because a lot of the tactico thing is to try to convince you that a player that's not that noticeably good is good. They have to, because that's where they get their I'm smarter than you value from, is being able to tell you that somebody's good and convince you. And I'm like, Gyökeres doesn't allow you to do that. He's just good. He's just good, and he's 27. He's not young, so it's just a different signing. I would have loved to see the tactical threads when we signed Aubameyang. When we signed Aubameyang, I'm pretty sure tactical threads, if it existed back then, it would have gotten dark. He's 27. He's, first of all, he's left BVB under a cloud. He doesn't do this, he doesn't do that. Like, Sesko would have been great. Gyökeres is a good signing all the time. Odegaard switched to number 10, and Eze Rodrigo or Lookman get 11. Gyökeres is a superstar striker with humbleness. He's right for Arsenal. To me, he's not even humble. When you go out there and you do an interview and you say, I'm just as good as Haaland and Kane, to me, you're not humble. But to be a good striker, you cannot be. There's not very many top strikers that do not have a level of arrogance or a chip on their shoulder or something. And for Arsenal fans, I think that's uncomfortable because in the last 5 years, we've been signing nice boys or people that work hard and all this kind of stuff. And I think we've forgotten that just because you're confident or even slightly arrogant, that doesn't make you problematic. And he's not problematic. He's somebody that desperately wanted to come to us and went and did whatever he could to get to Arsenal. But make no mistake about it, he's not sitting there saying, I'm going to fight for my position with Havertz and I respect Havertz and this and that. He said, I'm better than Kane. I'm just as good as Kane. I'm just as good as Haaland. That's to me, that's not, he seems like somebody that's like, nah, fuck this shit. I'm good. You need that ego in order to be the best striker. Like I said, striker and goalkeeper to me are not positions that you need coddling. Those positions are kind of like, depending on how the game goes, a lot of times those are the two positions that get blamed. The goalkeeper for not saving things and the striker for not scoring. And so to me, those are two mentality positions. That's why you have crazy goalkeepers. That's why we say goalkeepers have a screw loose. You have to be kind of insane to want to be a goalkeeper. Can't really be humble. You kind of have to feel like I can keep anybody from scoring. The striker is pretty similar to that. And so, because you're on your own, if you don't score, it's on you. It's very different than other positions. So I think it's just so rare that you're going to have even Eddie to a certain extent. He wasn't the best striker in the world, but he did have an arrogance about him that was different to Gabriel Jesus. Gabriel Jesus is still a player that needs a lot of, I don't want to call it coddling, but he needs confidence. Eddie did not lack confidence. He lacked maybe the talent at the top level. And so, yeah, I think that Gyökeres is a quintessential striker in the most traditional way. Somebody that wants to score goals, is pissed when he doesn't score, but believes that he's good enough to make a huge difference in a team. And I would imagine that in one of these interviews coming up, he will at least mention or allude to him being the final piece that Arsenal need in order to win the trophies, because he's probably confident enough, to say something like that. And that's essentially what you need to have wanted to be. Whatever striker we were getting, I think to a certain extent needs to believe that they're the final piece. Spot on with the goalkeeper and striker comparison. Eddie likes some kind of weird barber that never finishes the job. I had enough. Imagine wanting a Boy Scout striker when the best striker of our club was literally Thierry Henry 14. We're just not, I feel like as a fan base, we've maybe forgotten that the striker position is usually a player that has a little bit of a chip on their shoulder, a little bit of arrogance, a good type of arrogance. I don't think arrogance is always a bad thing on the pitch when you're playing a sport. We're talking about competition. He's not competing against us. He's competing against people that we want to beat. So I think arrogance is fine. Confidence, a little bit of arrogance, not to the detriment where you're so arrogant that you don't feel like you need to work hard and things like that, but the kind of arrogance that's I'm better than you. I'm better than you, you know, so what's really going on? So yeah, I don't actually think it's that big of a deal, but over the years, because of the type of team that's been built, I do think that there's a reluctancy to buy into confidence and arrogance being a good thing. For like, I don't give a fuck if you don't like my player. Trust and believe. I actually want you not to like my player. If you don't like my player, we're doing it right. So I don't mind if the outside world says, oh, he's arrogant, he's this and that. That's okay. you know Arrogance doesn't mean you're going to go into the locker room and cause problems. It doesn't mean that you're going to disagree with the coach, but we've kind of conflated those two things now. That arrogance and confidence, somebody that feels like they're really good is going to feel like they're bigger than the team, and that's not necessarily always true. Eze, Rogers, Palacios are better than Eze. Okay. Like, if you actually think that, Palacios, really? Like, nobody's checking for Palacios. Rogers, good player. Prefer Eze all day, every day. If Marino and Havertz did well up front and they are not strikers, Gyökeres will be fine. Eddie Money pays for half of Gyökeres' fee. That's what's up. Jess, what do you think about Zinchenko for this season? Junior, I don't. Him, like Jesus, are players that, in my mind, don't necessarily, they're not really a part of the bigger team. Actually, don't even have Jesus on here or Zinchenko, and that's what I mean. When we look at the person behind the starter, neither of them are in the list, so I don't really think about them. Zinchenko to me is somebody that we were on our deathbed and we needed players. We had injuries in midfield and up front and in different positions, and Arteta still did not use Zinchenko. So I don't think about Zinchenko. I wish that Arteta would use him, a little bit more if he's going to be here, because I do think he has qualities, maybe not at left back, but I wouldn't mind seeing him at left 8 here and there, especially if we don't get a left 8, then why not utilize Zinchenko in moments where we need to break down a deep block? If I actually look at the qualities of Marino and Rice and Zinchenko, he's probably the best suited to try to break down a deep block through passing, but Arteta is going to ice him out for another season probably. And so that's why I don't really think about him. Jesus, we'll see him when we see him. I'm always just counting down the minutes until he gets another injury. And so we just need him to stay fit enough so that we can sell him. They're not on here because they're probably the third option in the positions in which they play at this stage. AC Milan getting a beating. Now Zubi is here. We had to fill the hole we dug for ourselves when we got Zinchenko and Jesus. Hole is filled. Now build a whole mansion. Now we're getting furniture. What do you think about our captain? We need the Odegaard 22. I'm not really worried about him, but that's because I actually believe in Odegaard. I'm one of the biggest Odegaard fans that you can possibly find. So in my mind, that was a bad season, and a bad season doesn't make a bad player. So, from my perspective, I think Odegaard will be really good this season. I think he's going to rebound. I think Zubamendi is going to help him out. I think getting a good rest is going to help him as well. He's, for some reason, one of the only players that doesn't get the, oh, maybe he's tired, kind of reasoning. Saka's gotten it, Saliba's gotten it, but Odegaard, for some reason, doesn't get it. And I'm not quite sure why that is. Nobody runs more than him. So, and he's played just pretty much as many minutes as anyone else. So, yeah, for me, I'm not really worried, but I could not rate Odegaard as highly as I rate him if I thought that one season meant that he was washed, so I'm probably not the channel for you if you hate Odegaard, because, I just don't see it. Nuances says, I'm not worried about Odegaard. Plus, I think Ethan is ready. I also think that that's an important point too, is actually really rate Ethan enough where I was advocating for Ethan being the backup to Odegaard and Eze more playing a role on the left-hand side, because I think Ethan plus Odegaard is more than good enough on that side. And I believe if Odegaard doesn't play well, that Ethan should come in and he'll be really, really good. But we've also learned through a little bit of research that a lot of Arsenal fans are fake. They don't actually believe in the players, and they only prop them up when it serves their narrative or their agenda. And the amount of people that are now saying, oh, I just don't believe that Ethan is ready, when you guys were ready for him to start games over Odegaard last season in the run-in. Either you rate him or you don't. And I'm just like, if Odegaard doesn't step up, then I'm more than happy for Ethan to play those games. More than happy. It's like rival fans were twerking just a couple of days ago when they thought that they could get him, saying that he was a world-class talent on the same level as Lamine Yamal and these guys. Now, I don't necessarily 100% agree with that, but Ethan is the shit. Like, Ethan is that guy. I watched his comp from last season. I'm like, to get this from a 17-year-old is actually insane. I don't know why the narrative around Ethan has changed so quickly from he needs to be starting to I don't know if he's good enough to deputize for Odegaard. You either rate him or you don't. Like, I think we need to put pressure, not really put pressure, but I'm feeling like I'm expecting Arteta to give him more minutes. I feel like he should take at least 5 or 6 games off of Odegaard. I feel like if we're winning games, he should come on at the 60th, 70th minute, so why not? I enjoyed his season last season. Very happy with Gyökeres' feet. Honestly, kudos to Gyökeres. Without him screaming, I only want Arsenal, we would have paid way more, 100%. That lineup has 22 players. We're allowed 3 more. That's why I think we'll get 1 more attacking mid, 1 more forward, and another defender once Zinni leaves. Well, they're already prepping us for Zinni not going, and you're forgetting about Jesus. So, and Arsenal feel like, they need somebody to go. So I still think Trossard would have to go in order for Eze to come in. But there are 2 other players, and they're Jesus and Zinchenko. So that leaves maybe 1 spot in your thinking. And so that's probably a Trossard sale. If Trossard is leaving, will Arsenal let Martinelli go for the right price if Bayern come calling? Well, they won't come calling because they're desperate for Luis Diaz, and they'll most likely get him. So I don't know who would be interested in Martinelli. I think the only team that I was really thinking about was AC Milan. If Leao left, so, and doesn't look like he's on the move either. So yeah, considering Gyökeres has never played in a top 5 league and the level of attention, response, excitement the move is getting, it's not something I've really seen for such a player, I don't think. Well, there's a head of Arsenal update. Okay, let me go look. Oh, what am I doing? I'm tripping. Okay. I was just on weird shit. All right. Arsenal and Sporting are now exchanging final documents for the transfer of Victor Gyökeres. Arsenal logistics teams are preparing his medical. The Swede is on standby. Gyökeres adamant he wants to be a part of preseason, followed strict individual training plan. Patients were always masters of the situation, first reported by David Ornstein. Yeah, get him on the plane, period. Like, no reason not to. Here, I'll add this so you guys can actually see it. There. So let me pull this down. So that's hand of Arsenal, what he was saying. Bro, Eze ain't all that, and this is his final form. Rodrigo, only 25, top 10 attacker in the world, and still has plenty of room to get better. It's not even a debate. Why are we even debating Rodrigo versus Eze anymore? It's very highly unlikely we'll get Rodrigo, and it's like Arteta is clearly pushing for Eze, and if we get him, it's because we got a sale. So Eze versus Rodrigo feels a little bit redundant at this stage now. I would take either one. They're both incredibly good players that do completely different things. I don't even think it's fair to really compare them like that because they play completely different positions. Like, if we sign Eze but don't have the budget for Rodrigo, would you consider a bid for Lookman or Yildiz? I think Is Lookman not going to Lookman not going to Inter Milan? So I don't know if that deal is like pretty much done. Yildiz, I do not see Juventus letting their crown jewel go. I think they're trying to offer him a new deal, but maybe put in a bid. I would imagine that if we do go for a left wing at some point in the window, it'll be Anthony Gordon. So yeah. Fabrizio for the hype, Ornstein for the truth, but they can't afford him. Lookman deal is stalling right now. Fair enough. Lookman is going to enter. No way. I think he's just trolling because nobody in their right mind doesn't rate Eze. Literally dragged his team to an FA Cup against City. Like nobody in their right mind doesn't rate him. Completely different profiles, Odegaard and Wanyeri. I'm not sure how good of a passer of the ball Ethan is, so he just offers something different if he were to come in for Odegaard. But I think that's the positive thing because I think you want somebody that has similarities but also is a little bit different. I don't think you want a carbon copy. And I think the benefit of having Ethan is, although I do feel like he has a better passing range than maybe he's shown, the reason why we haven't seen it is because he's always wants to shoot. And that's something that Odegaard struggles with, is continuously being a goal threat. And so if you really think about it, it's probably a good thing that as Ethan is different. Because one thing Arsenal don't do is take enough shots, and I don't really rate Nani, but one thing that he will bring and Gyökeres will bring, and when Ethan plays, he brings is a lot more shots. This team is shot shy, and so I actually kind of like that. I have Eze on the brain. Ethan is somebody that's willing to take a pop, I heard Henry Winter say that Madueke might actually be playing on the left. I mean, it only makes sense that he's going to play quite a few minutes on the left. Right now I have Trossard and Martinelli there, but it's yeah. The Rafinha, why do I have this up? I'm like looking at stuff. The Rafinha play for Mikel, Rafinha Sane, is looking more and more likely as days go by. Trossard would be great for Atalanta. Don't we agree? Why doesn't he just go there and take Lookman's spot? Right. Why are we not trying to broker that? Are you not Italian, Berta? Noni is our left wing signing. The thing with Ethan and Odegaard does a lot of pressing and ball retention. We have not seen that from Ethan. Ethan will be used out wide where there is not so much pressure. He won't be used out wide, though, because it's been confirmed multiple times that he's being used as the 8/10. So he's not going to be used out wide anymore, not as much as he was. And again, you're not going to buy Noni and then Ethan is still going to be playing that position, are you? If Zinni stays, just use him in midfield to help control games, especially at home. That's what I'm saying. I'm like, why? I mean, I get that, like, some of our players are not the best that sit the bench, but it's like the way that we just throw away certain profiles and we're like, we don't even try to like utilize them in any sort of way. Like as soon as Calafiori came in, it was like Arteta just said, fuck Zinni, I'm done, with him. And I'm like, is he that bad of a player that you can't even like utilize his best skills to like help us in a pinch? I think the way that Zinni was completely iced out at the end of the season, even though we were so desperate because we had so many injuries, was really like very clear to me. And so it's like, I get that he's not good defensively, but let's not pretend like he's not somebody that has an elite skill and he's really good at one thing, and that one thing is something that we tend not to have when we need to break down deep blocks, so if he's gonna fucking be here, can we utilize him just ever so slightly or no? Ethan is a great and complete footballer. He is able to in the match. Odegaard is effective when it's Saka on the right. He's almost 90% on the right side of the field. We need a cam who can move both sides of the field. Our left side misses creativity. Well, maybe if our winger or our left center mid had creativity, then we wouldn't have that problem. Again, if you look at the way that we play, we have two people on the left-hand side that you guys don't require to do anything, because it's like, well, Saka and Odegaard need to do it all. It's like literally our left wing and our left center mid don't add any creativity. And the best thing Arteta can do this summer is move Declan Rice to a double pivot and allow our right center mid to be a number 10, because if we don't buy anything, yeah, it's going to be tough, but it's the way that we've been playing. It's the way that we've been playing. Everybody's locked into the position. If you can name somebody outside of our left back that has freedom to roam the pitch, because Saka doesn't go to the left, Martinelli doesn't go to the right, Rice doesn't pop on the right, Odegaard doesn't pop up to the left. If you're telling me that all those players just do not know how to move and play free flowing, or if it's by design, so it's not about Odegaard can't move to the left and, we need somebody that can play central. Arteta needs to change his tactics. It's ridiculous, because it's so strange that people don't require the left-hand side to do anything. Any coach worth his salt should be able to leverage Ethan's shooting and dribbling ability to create chances for him or his teammates. Stop looking at everywhere through Odegaard lens. Declan wants to score. He won't become a 2 CDM. Okay. Uzini would not have helped us beat Newcastle. Well, we weren't trying to break down a deep block, Benny, which was my point. When I said that we should be utilizing Zinchenko in some capacity, the problem wasn't, like, in that game, wasn't about a deep block, which I specifically said when we play up against teams that have a deep block, Zinni has the one skill that we are desperate for when we need to break those down. So no, that doesn't include Newcastle, because when they came to the Emirates, they didn't play in a deep block and it was kind of an open game. Our problem was finishing. But yeah, he probably would have helped us against Bournemouth or, Brentford or Everton or any of those teams that sat in a mid-block, Fulham, those types of teams. So yeah, it's irrelevant whether he would have helped us in against Newcastle. No team is getting past our defense, especially when you have Rice and Zubi in front of it. And now we have a striker, so that will be a lot easier now. Any news on Rodrigo? Nope. But it's Arteta that looks at everything through Odegaard lens. That's why he never left him out of the team, even when he was out of form. Ethan is quality, but I believe he struggled physically compared to Miles. He needs to improve in that department. So yeah, I hear that. I definitely hear all of that. But I mean, Gyökeres is going to help things a lot, because I also think that it goes under the radar quite a bit that we don't really have somebody that makes, we don't have like a real striker. And so when we have one, our players will be able to actually feed that player, and there won't just be all these chances that just go missing. So, I'm excited about that. I think that'll help Odegaard as well, since he is more of a facilitator. He's not a number 10 that's going to score a lot of goals. So yeah, Arteta will not play as a left center mid. This club will not put Marino third choice, 130K per week, constant bench. He will play as a left wing. It's Arteta. So where's Noni going to play then? If they've already confirmed that Noni is not just looked at as a right wing, and several people have also confirmed about him playing left wing and Arteta wanting to do a Sane project with him, then where's Noni going to play? Ethan needs to step up. He gets a lot of hail and grace. What do you mean? He needs to step up. He was 17 and he did step up. So what do you mean he's getting a lot of hail and grace? You're speaking as though he had a poor season and he didn't live up to your expectations. There were no expectations of Ethan going into the season. So very strange, very, very strange comment there. I feel like you're reaching. Every year we have a surprise in the starting 11. What's yours for the season, Jess? A surprise in the starting 11? What do you mean? Like somebody that we didn't think was going to start but ends up starting, like Miles? Uh, let's think. Not really a surprise, but I wouldn't like, it would be a little bit of like a whew if Noni was really playing on the left and Arteta like actually started him there and stood on business. That would be shocking because we haven't really seen anybody bench Martinelli. And if that were the case, that would be crazy. And then the only other person I can see maybe doing something is maybe Calafiori. We didn't get to see the best of him, and I know Miles is kind of like set, but Arteta also went out on a limb and brought in Calafiori. Like he was so desperate for Calafiori when we needed an attacker, but he prioritized a left back, that was not, I won't say expensive, but it was definitely something that ended up like being a good chunk of the budget. So I think there it could be Calafiori, it could be White, because Arteta loves Ben White. And it would have been interesting to see how Arteta would have managed both Timber and White if they were fit. Because I don't think Arteta is just going to throw White in the trash like some people think. Now, do I think Timber is a better player? Yes, but that doesn't always matter to Mikel. All that matters to Mikel is what he wants, So I think the fullback positions will be interesting because the alternative to the players that started in Timber than MLS, there was the alternatives were both injured for large parts of the season in Ben White and Calafiori. So a fit Calafiori and a fit White provides like a different problem for Mikel to solve, and both players are well liked by Mikel. So I don't necessarily see them just being like cast aside. But so the fullback position is probably maybe a surprise there. And then left wing, if it ends up actually really being Madueke, that'll be the first time that Arteta stood on business and benched Martinelli. Like Eze and Simmons is a fair comparison style wise. Let's get Eze. I think most of us will be happy with the window. White is a slightly better attacker. Timber is a much better defender. And you know what? That's the very interesting part about Timber versus White is that when you like do like a comparison of two players, and I feel like what you would see with Timber is like a lot of wins, like if you compared them, but White probably has 2 or 3 wins on him, like if you compared them, but they're all probably from like a passing or attacking standpoint, which I don't necessarily even feel like White was that good of an attacker at the beginning, but he grew into it. So is what you would miss in defense be worth it to get? I mean, is it a marginal gain? Is it a big gain in attack? I'm not sure. Because I don't think like because I don't want to pretend like I think like White is a Trent Alexander-Arnold or a Reece James, because I don't think from an attacking standpoint it's that big of like of an ad, but what are you going to lose defensively with White that you were getting with Timber? Because one thing with Timber is I feel like if my fullbacks are not super attacking, I don't really care if they keep goals out, because I kind of expect my midfield and attack to be able to take all of that. But because our attack was so weak at times, I feel like people wanted more of an attacking fullback to compensate, but I kind of almost feel like if you just have better attackers, it wouldn't matter as much. So, yeah, I don't actually know. Yeah, I don't actually know, but I still think Timber is pretty clear of White, if I'm being super honest. Pre-injury, White was top 3 right backs in the world. Okay, I feel like you just are going against the grain, and that's fine. White is not very good. Let's be honest. He's an average defender and below average going forward. He does have 2 world-class defenders in Gabby and Saliba. Timber starts. See, I don't even believe with this. I don't think he's not very good. I actually think he is very good. When I described it, I said that I thought Ben White was kind of like a B-plus player. He's really good at like a lot of things. Is he elite at anything? No, but he's probably like a B-plus. I do think Timber is an A. And I feel like the only reason why he's not an A+ is because maybe his attacking, like when he gets into the box, he doesn't make the right decision, but you get so much from him that it kind of doesn't matter. So yeah, but when you have a, um, you know, a B+ player, to me, that's very good. And so I know a lot of people were really down on Ben White, but I think they forget what he was like pre that knee injury. Now, I don't agree with what's his name that's saying that he's clear of Timber and he was a top 3 in the world, but he might have been top 3 in the league, So I don't want to be like, go to I'm not too much on Ben White. Like he is a really good player, but Timber to me is a clear upgrade. A clear upgrade. I really just do not see White being some sort of equal but different option that people are saying that he is. I know a lot of people are Timber's really good, but Ben White is just he's going to be so important to this and that. And I'm like, yeah, I don't know. I'm not sure about that. Ben White, good. What are y'all smoking? Let's see. Gyökeres is not our player yet. I think we have a very short time left to cough up the Sporting's demands or Manchester United or Chelsea will do. Okay, so just ignore every report from today. Great. Timber is a beast 1v1. Only player who rattled him was Krava, but he got him back and he was injured. He was injured and he also is a really good ball carrier and he's pretty press resistant. The only thing I would say to Timber is that I would like for him to look up when he gets into the final third and pick a pass out. When he does that, there's not really anything that White is better than him at. But that's just me. I just feel like in the games that really matter, I never really felt worried about some of the best attackers in the world because I had Miles Lewis Skelly and Timber. I never really felt like that with Ben White and Zinchenko. When we had Ben White and Zinchenko, there was always like so how is Rashford going to cook Ben White today? Is he going to get an early yellow card and then we have to take him out at halftime? It's Zinchenko. Is he going to be out of position? So I think we have clearly upgraded, but I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. Which player are you most excited to see next season so far? Listen, I could say I'm I'm excited about a lot of the players, to be honest. Like I'm not like 100% excited about the season, but I always miss, watching like Rice play and Saka play. So I'm excited to see them. But in terms of like the new players, it's got to be Gyökeres. Like it's got to be Gyökeres. It's not even close. We've needed a striker for so long and we're getting one. Zubi also very excited about Zubi. I do think that, watching him for Spain in those like that French game, the game against France and the game against Portugal was like, yeah, that's nice. That's real nice. So yeah, I think the two main signings and then I always miss watching like Saka and Rice play for sure. Odegaard as well. Just the whole team. I love them all. We need more Azalea, Lookman, Sel Trossard, and Martinelli. I'm excited to see Fit Calafiori. Yeah, that's a really good one as well. Let's see. His defensive skills weren't on par. Had to put him at right back. I don't actually agree with this narrative that Ben White got moved to right back because he wasn't a good center back. That center back pairing of Gabriel and White was actually pretty good. It's not as good as Saliba and Gabriel, but just because something is not as good doesn't mean it's bad. Ben White moved to right back, and I think there was always reports that he might end up there at some stages because we knew that he could play out wide, but then Saliba came back in. So I don't think Arteta was like, Ben White is so shit at center back, we need to move him to right back. I think people made that up in their head. I'm not going to lie. I'm going to be so honest. That feels like something that we made up in our minds because you just don't like Ben White. And a lot of the hate from Ben White does stem from Saliba, so yeah. I think we need to remember the amount of games and competitions we are going to be involved in. Trust me, Ben White and Ethan are going to require to play in order for us to complete on all fronts. I mean, Saliba was already bought, you guys, so it's not like Arteta panicked and was like, we need to go out there and buy Saliba because Ben White was crap. There was always a plan for for Saliba to come in. So yeah, I'm not really. And also Tomiyasu was really, really good in his first season. So I think it just ended up being the case that Ben White was probably a better right back than Tomiyasu, or Arteta liked him more there. And it just naturally happened. Like, not everything is because somebody is shit. Not everything is about, oh, somebody is shit. So that sometimes it just works out. I actually just think that worked out really well for us. I don't think Arteta thought that Ben White was shit at center back. Like, Ben White was signed because he can play multiple positions in the back line. Exactly. Like, I feel like people made that shit up. Let's see. Arsenal are working for Eze. No, they're not. Saliba is just too good. That's all there is to it. And he was already signed. That's my thing. Saliba was already signed, so it was always the plan for Saliba to come back in, at some stage. So sometimes, like, because at the end of the season, when we had Gabriel and Ben White playing center back, I remember I do these streams all the time and we have these conversations. Unless I missed a conversation or people were just hiding their feelings, I don't actually remember the greater Arsenal fan base saying that Ben White was shit at center back and he needs to be replaced. So I feel like the narrative changed, and maybe people that didn't like Ben White just made it up in their head. But I think that was the season where we finished fifth, or something like that. And my main issue was not, well, our defense was actually ravaged. When we got into those final stages, we were playing like Cedric. Remember, he fouled Son and got sent off. Like, we were ravaged at the back. But I never really personally, and I don't remember these conversations that people were like, this Gabriel White connection is shit. And the only kind of conversations that I did hear were people being mad about Saliba not being there because he was out on loan. And so, like, because Ben White was not a popular signing at the time. So there was a lot of like, Saliba should be here, and Ben White is shit. And I kind of feel like it's just more residual of that. But like, regular people that I talk to, yeah, there was never a like, Ben White is shit conversation, to be honest. Ben White is fired, to be honest. What are we talking about? Only bad game I can remember from Ben White was the first game against Brentford. How can anyone dislike Benny Blanco, the ultimate wind-up merchant to rivals? I don't think you guys must not been in the streets back then. You must have not been in the streets back then. Back then, the main conversation around Ben White was the fact that Arsenal fans were absolutely off of they were out of like their minds about Saliba, and Arteta hated Saliba and we need him. Mind you, they ignored the fact that he looked really bad in preseason. To me, he didn't look ready, so Saliba was out on loan and we had bought Ben White. And because people were so afraid, because they were so like believing everything that the French media was saying about Saliba being upset and not wanting to be at Arsenal or anything like that, they were projecting that onto Ben White. Ben White never had a chance. He talked about that in the All or Nothing doc, that people were messaging him saying, you're shit, you're shit, you're shit, you're shit. But throughout that season, outside of people that just hated him because Saliba wasn't there, I do not remember conversations about him being shit next to Gabriel. I don't. I don't think those conversations were being had outside of people that just hated him because they wanted Saliba there. All for nothing to be a problem, because again, people that felt that way never came forward and apologized or, said I got it wrong. They just let it go, and acted like they never abused Ben White because Saliba was playing in France. It was like if you guys were not on the streets back then, oh my gosh, that was like the original Madueke. It was like, it was crazy. It really, really was. It was insane. Saliba crowd was right, though. Saliba is the truth. Nobody said he wasn't. That's the thing. Nobody said Saliba wasn't really good. That wasn't the point. What is the Benny Blanco hate all of a sudden? He's a solid defender. Fans called him the best defender 2 seasons ago, because it can never be that one player is good and the other player is better. It's always one player is the best player in the world and the other player is literally like dog shit. Like, there's never any like, Please talk about Arsenal's transfers. Kind of already did. Here we go for Gyökeres. So I've gone through that a couple of times now. Let's see. If you guys are just joining, we did get a here we go for Gyökeres a while ago, and there's no updates on anything else outside of Arteta's pushing for Eze, but the club feels like we're fine. And we'll have to probably sell in order to get him in. Let's see. We came twice with White at right back. Come on now. But that's what I'm saying. I'm like, when we talk about players, it's either one player is the best player that ever walked the earth, and then whatever is the opposite of that is like terrible. And Ben White was not received well at all. I remember that summer like it was yesterday, because I remember I was like, what is this Ben White? Because I had not watched him, so I was like, I've never heard of him, like what? And I wasn't really that excited about the signing, but then I saw that like, ooh, there's like an actual like hate train for this player, and it actually has nothing to do with who he is or how he plays. It's just about Saliba. And it took people so long to come around to Ben White, and it was really, really annoying. I can't lie. I like White, but I always thought the fee we paid for him was insane. Well, that's Brighton. That was our first taste of English tax, Ben White. English tax, Ben White, Brighton. Like it was really like we had to pay the fee. So it is what it is. This club employed Rob Holding, by the way. That's what I'm saying. It's like there was less smoke for Rob Holding, but all the smoke was for Ben White. It was very strange fan base. The 50 million came out of nowhere. Who will start on the left since Noni, according to Charles Watts, is no bench player? I don't know. We'll see if Arteta stands on business or not, because how do you guys feel about it? Would you guys rather like see Madueke start on the left initially to see what he's like, or just stick with Martinelli? Because my feeling is that we paid 50 million for this player, so you better fucking play him and he better be good. And I'm just kind of tired of seeing Martinelli anyway. So I think I'd be slightly interested in him starting some games at left wing at the beginning, to see what it is, but I know some people are like, nah, I don't want to see him at all. But I'm like, yeah, I want to see him. I want to see him. I wanted him on the Asia tour so I could see what we got, what we actually bought, in an Arsenal shirt. So I'm kind of feeling like Jagoon here. I want to kind of see something new. Like let's see what we have. You can always revert back to Martinelli. He's not going anywhere, but why not try that and see, because if he's just on the bench, then we've wasted 50 million, in my opinion. Then we should have just went and got Eze or something else. So I'm kind of feeling like I just want to see something new, because I know what we have over there doesn't work anyway, so let's just try something else, but I don't really believe in Arteta in terms of standing on business, being the type that's going to really shake the table. I think he's quite comfortable with the things that he has. Like he'll start with Martinelli and Havertz instead of being like, you see all other coaches just start their new players right away. The only new players that he started right away were Havertz and Declan Rice. But it just feels like he's a little reluctant when we get to the attack to like really like push the envelope. I really don't want to see Martinelli and Havertz. We need to see something else, because whatever that is doesn't work. We don't need more dribbling for nothing, but if Noni can get the ball in the final third consistently, he's better than Gabby. Rather see Madueke all day, tired of watching Martinelli produce nothing. Madueke starts to have Wary the defense out, and Martinelli can come in to finish the job. Unfortunately, Madueke misses most of preseason games. Would have been perfect to try different combos. No, well, he'll be there for the Emirates Cup. He's only taking a 14-day break. That'll bring him right in for the Emirates Cup. So I would expect for him to play quite a few minutes in those last two games against those Spanish teams, because again, there's a huge outlay, and he's potentially our only attacking wide forward coming in. Yeah, I want to see him. You always going to overpay for players. Clubs get as much as they want for a player, well, except us. Definitely want to see something new on the left. Yeah, I'm definitely trying to see something new. I'm not going to lie. Now, if it's shit, then From there, I don't know where we go, but I'm trying to see something new. Stand on business. You spent 50 million on this player. You guys are bigging him up, saying, because again, Arteta said he's one of the best wide players in the league. Stand on that shit. Play him on the left. I don't actually think and I said this before and I'll say this again, that I do not think that Madueke can be the type of signing that just makes us different or adds some different qualities. I think that he needs to bang, and Arteta needs to be able to give him the type of trajectory through coaching and development as a Rafinha or Sane type player. That's what's required. We needed an upgrade on Martinelli, not somebody that just adds a couple of different options and does something a little bit different, but ultimately on a game day, we're like, oh my God, what are we going to be subjected to today? Is it, Trossard selfishness? Is it Martinelli running out the end line, or is it Nani running through blind alleys? Like, it can't be that. So if you're saying that he's one of the best attackers in the league and you're spending a lot on him and you've convinced him that he's going to play minutes, my expectation is that he is going to be on the left, and I want to see you do it. I want to see you coach this player into the player that you said he was, because otherwise we should have just gotten somebody else. So there's no hiding him on the bench or, pretending like we need to see more from Martinelli. We've seen everything we need to see from Martinelli. You need to be playing Madueke. Sorry. Said what I said. I'm not even excited about him, but it's like at this stage, you have to see what he is, let's see. Or Saka leaves after 60 minutes. Noni moves to the right wing and Martinelli goes to the left wing. Yeah, but again, like I said before, if Nani's just an upgrade on Raheem Sterling, then that's, I'm not leaving one of the best wingers, in the league as a backup for Saka coming in for 20 minutes. That doesn't line up for a tier 1 signing. It doesn't line up for the amount we paid for him. It doesn't line up for all the briefings that have come out. So maybe just start Nani on the left and let's see what we actually have here. Because one thing's for sure, even if Nani doesn't work out, we need something different on the left. We needed something on the left more than we needed something on the right. The media reaction to this is embarrassing. Liverpool are signing 2 Bundesliga players that scored less than Premier League flops and Nkunku. No one mentioned that. Well, they won the league. When you win the league, you pretty much get carte blanche and the benefit of the doubt. When you're Arsenal and you haven't won anything, a major trophy in 20-something years and nothing in 5 years, you get less of the benefit of the doubt. So until we start winning, they're going to paint like a negative kind of film on all of our signings. That's just how it goes, Kivior and Calafiori struggle out wide. I hope they get minutes as center backs, which is their best positions, and Saliba and Gabby can be rested when they're not needed. I love Nelly, but whatever gets us the win, I don't care. If Nani outperforms Nelly, then so be it. One Gunner, one Arsenal. Give thanks, Father God, and thanks you, Mike, and also did Arsenal family 100%. Waylon says, I just hope Arteta knows what he's doing with Madueke. If we mess up the season, it's going to get toxic really quick. Well, can't say you didn't run right into it, right? If we sign Eze, would that be enough in your opinion? I want us to sign Rodrigo personally. I mean, for what we need, Rodrigo would be a better option, but ultimately beggars can't be choosers. And I think Eze, no matter what position he plays, whether that's left wing or left center mid, there's an argument to say that he might be the better option, the best option in both of those positions for Arsenal. He's just a quality player that's better than most of the things that we have. The only other player that I feel like is on his level in terms of talent, not necessarily profile, but talent, is Rice in those positions, so I think he could play on our left wing and be much better than Martinelli just because he's just a much better player. So it may not feel like the right thing, but it would feel better than what we're doing now. It's still a much better window than what we're looking at currently. I'm not sure he's better than Martinelli on the left. He's a bad passer and he likes to shoot a lot. I'm more interested in seeing Saka central and Nani on the right. We're probably not going to move the best right winger, one of the best right wingers in the world, to central. I don't really see that, but we're not sure that he's better than Martinelli on the left, but I'd like to see it, before we decide. Because Martinelli is not necessarily the standard either, So, hey, Jess, do you think our current set of midfielders we have has enough goals from the midfield? Well, I think getting an actual striker actually helps this whole like goals from midfield situation. The reason why Arsenal needs so many goals from midfield is because our attackers don't score enough. I think there's a heavy kind of stress on our midfielders to kind of create everything and also score a lot because our attackers don't create anything from themselves and they do not score anywhere near enough goals. So Gyökeres hopefully will take a lot of that burden off and allow Odegaard and Rice not to have to score 15 goals for us to, you know, to make ends meet, to be honest. So is it enough? Probably could have used an Eze to add a couple more goals, but that's why you get a good striker. He's going to take some of the burden off of those midfielders. And of course, Saka is going to score a lot of goals, but who knows what's going to happen on the left? We don't know. But I don't agree. I still see a lot of potential there in terms of what? Martinelli's best position is left back in the changing room. Saka is not moving out of right wing spot anytime soon. That's what I'm saying. It's just very unlikely. Hey, Jess, do you think with our current set of midfielders? Okay, I read that. So, like when you have an actual striker, then you don't need Odegaard and Rice to score that many goals. And when you actually look at some of the outside of like, there's a couple of outliers there, like somebody like a Cole Palmer is like an outlier where he's a number 10 and scores lots of goals. But for the most part, midfields that are like ours, like if you go look at like Barcelona's midfield or you go look at PSG's midfield, those midfielders don't score double digits. They pretty much give the ball to Doué and Dembele and whoever else. They give it to Rafinha. These players score the goals, and I think that's kind of more of our midfield. That doesn't mean that they can't score any, but I think we've been heavily reliant on midfield scoring goals because we're probably only going to get 12 max from our striker. And that's just the reality. Like the types of attacks that we're going up against in Europe, their front three score like 50 goals, if not more than that. And that's where we need to get to, unless Arsenal want to go buy a number 10 that's going to score 20 goals, and they're not going to do that. Spoiler. So Madueke looks like a good second choice recycler as well. Second chance recycler. Pray 4-2-3-1 with Eze left attacking mid, and we will be kosher. Rice, Odegaard will probably benefit a lot from second chances falling to them right outside the box. Gyökeres, the striker, Nani left forward, Eze attacking mid. I'll take it, although somewhat underwhelming. I'll definitely take that. Eze coming in would help so much in terms of feeling like we have if you're asking questions about goals from midfield, you're asking questions about creativity, you're asking those types of questions about left wing. He solves a lot of those questions in our head about, is this enough? And so just making that specific signing would help a lot. I really do hope that Arsenal are considering it and, they're pushing for it because it just feels like a very obvious signing to make, but Arsenal like to stop just short of what we need to be doing. Just short, just shy. It's like we just needed that one extra signing and we just never really do it. So yeah. Fabrizio Romano saying Arsenal are not done in the market, have to keep an eye on outgoings too. I mean, I don't know if he's just kind of conflating that to make it sound like we're doing more business, but it's actually just outgoings. We actually cannot afford to be done in the market right now. I'm being so serious. Arsenal need to bring in something else. So, been seeing a lot of salt online when it seems like a hijack was coming for Gyökeres. He was the best thing since sliced bread. Now we got him, and the doubters begin to sing "It's Mad." Matthew, don't even worry about that. I feel like ultimately, no matter who we would have bought, that player was ass and we should have got somebody else. When it looked like we were getting Sesko, Gyökeres was the best player, and oh my gosh, Arsenal were making such a big mistake. And then as soon as it switched over to Gyökeres, now it's, are you sure he's going to score these amount of goals? Mind you, United fans were just twerking for Gyökeres, and anytime that they thought there was a chance of a hijack, they were bent over on their streams, just, we're going to get Gyökeres. I just think it's going to happen, and I watched and I laughed because I was like, no way they fucking think they're getting Gyökeres. Like, just put in a bid. Just put in a bid. It'll sway his mind. It's that he's known that he could go to you this whole time. He doesn't want you, so don't worry. I feel like no matter who we buy, the narrative around that player is going to be that they're not really as good as you think that they are. Like Zubimendi also overnight became, is he really a level raiser? Is he really that good? Oh my gosh, are you guys sure? But when Liverpool were going after him, it was, oh my gosh, we beat them to Zubimendi. He's the best. Oh, Zubi Zoo. That's just, the game is the game. As soon as, and I'm the same way. Anything that our rivals buy, even if I deep down know it's good, I'm gonna play up that, those insecurities in their head and be like, are you sure that he's actually that good? Like, that's just what you do as a rival. Neither Sesko or Gyökeres were sure things. Regardless, I'm happy with the potential of Kai getting his shirt taken off of him. Gyökeres didn't want to be at with the rats at the toilet bowl. Do you guys understand how crazy it is for you to win titles with a manager that came to the Prem and for you to go to one of their biggest rivals instead? Do you get how crazy that is? Like, that has to be a salt in the wound. Salt in the wound. Because you can even convince him that, oh, don't worry about playing in Champions League because with you and the team that we're building, we'll be in Champions League the next season. He couldn't even convince him of that. So he just doesn't believe in you, which is funny. Frank says Zubimendi doesn't score goals. Well, if we have to rely upon our DM to score goals, then I don't know what to tell you. Arsenal fans have become almost like a fan base that expects positions that don't usually score goals to come up with a lot of goals because they don't require their attackers to do it. Honestly, Gyökeres, whatever is playing on the left, and Saka need to score 50 to 60 goals next season by themselves. They need more pressure on them to come up with the types of numbers that the PSGs and the Barcelonas and those types, put in. So, the midfielders will pitch in, but we should not be looking to our center backs and our DM to bail us out. I really could not give a flip if Zubimendi scores a single goal because he's our freaking DM. Like, I feel like the only DM that really comes up with big goals here and there is probably like Rodri, but Man City are not sitting there being like, we need Rodri to score 10 goals this season. Like, who cares? It's your DM. Center backs, it's like, yeah, no. Next they'll be, well, how many goals is Raya going to get? He needs to chip in. No. Gabriel Glock with the Bain Selly against Man United. I'm ready. Yeah, Arsenal frontline are going to need to score 50 plus. I know that sounds crazy to say, but the reality is good attacks do score that amount of goals. Ours has been split around because we don't have attackers that are clinical, so there's been an emphasis on center backs to score goals, that's the set pieces, and midfielders to score lots of goals, but ultimately those goals are needed, but they shouldn't be we shouldn't have to be desperate for them. They should almost be like extra. But as time has gone on and our attack has scored less, there's been more of this desperation for our defenders to score and our midfielders to score. But in reality, the attackers are just not coming up with the goods. Like, your top goal scorer being Havertz at 9 is kind of diabolical, so I'm expecting this to be our first season where we have a forward at 20 goals, which we haven't gotten that under Mikel yet. And I think every single top team has at least one player that gets 20 goals, or at least close to it, so it sounds crazy right now because we haven't had it, but really we should be expecting that. 20 goals. If you have 20 goals from Gyökeres and you have 15 from Saka and you have 10 from Martinelli or whoever, that should be pretty close to 50. So they need to be coming up with 50 goals or more. They need more pressure put on them to score the goals because they're the most likely people to score because they are the players that are meant to have that skill set. When you start asking your DM to chip in with goals, I'm looking at you like, and I know Frank, you weren't 100% saying that, but yeah. Doomers work harder than Berta. I've already heard Gyökeres will be passing backwards by the third match. Gyökeres 20, Saka 15, left wing 15. And then you also want to sprinkle in, goals from like Ethan. You're going to get goals from Ethan. I'm projecting Declan to have a 10 and 10 season, 10 goals, 10 assists. I'm actually expecting the same from Odegaard. He's had a poor season if he has not scored at least 8 goals and got at least 10 assists. I'm expecting a big season from him. I'm not going to lie. So they're going to pitch in, but we need to be close to 100 goals, so and I'm expecting less emphasis on the defenders. My goal for both of Rice and Odegaard is a 10 and 10. 10 and 10, something around there. 10 assists, because again, like Declan Rice takes a lot of corners, so I'm adding that in as well. You get what I'm saying? So those are my expectations. Now, if they fall short, we'll talk about that. But 10 and 10. Odegaard now has a striker. I'm expecting you to have much better assist record now. Of course, we have different corner takers now, but you're still one of our main attacking creative minds. You need to be putting up good numbers with actual finishers in the team. Left wing, 15 goals. I know you can do it. Saka was on track for it for one season, was he not? Martinelli got it one season. And then Saka was on track for it. But Saka also gets a lot of assists too. So you guys think I haven't sat here and done the math? Yeah, I'm insane. Of course I've done the math. So Saka, in the 2 seasons that he wasn't injured, had 14 goals and 16 goals. So he is more than good enough to score 15 goals. I know some of that is probably inflated by maybe penalties, but he's going to step up this season and get some more goals. So yeah, we just need to there needs to be less pressure on like DMs and fullbacks and defenders in Raya to score goals for us. Saka finished top 5 in assists last year. Rice on free kicks. Yes, Saka was injured. What do you expect from Ethan? My expectation from Ethan is 10 GA at the least, like 5 and 5 or, something like that. I'm trying to keep it realistic, but based on what he did last season, I think it's realistic to expect he gets at least 10 GA. Because I don't actually know what the repercussions of like Odegaard having a full season is going to be. And really like Reece Nelson wasn't there and Sterling was so bad that Ethan got more playing time. So Ethan got 4 goals and 2 assists in the Premier League. And then he added more to that through other competitions. So 2 in the Champions League and 3 in the Carabao. I'm expecting at least 10 GA in the Prem. That's what I'm expecting. He got 6 last season. So I'm expecting him to almost double that, but because I'm not expecting much from Zubimendi from a goal standpoint. I'm not, expecting that much from Marino because I don't think he'll play up front. So yeah. We're gonna get our usual Gabriel like 5 goals, so yeah, definitely Gyökeres on pens now. Gabriel headers are still top 3 unstoppable forces in all football. Arsenal got legit 5 front players now. And going for a 650 is low expectations, but it's a start. When I say 50 goals, I'm talking about that's just the 3 starters. need to be nicking those numbers. So I'm expecting the non-starters, the Havertz and Trossard, to chip in. But my expectation is of the starting group, Saka, Gyökeres, and whoever plays on the left, them by themselves needs to be getting 50. They need to get 50 on their own. Yeah, when we were 2-3-0 up, we need to be using the backups and asking them to go for more instead of defending. Exactly. We should be pushing for 2-3 goals on our own, and then when people come on, score more. Like, this whole only being able to score 1 goal and then hanging on to it was definitely, like, very strange to see, and it was happening so much. So we should feel like even if a team scores 2 goals, we're at home, even if they catch us out and score 2 goals, that we can score 3 or 4, and I'm not quite sure they had that excitement or that confidence last season, but I expect them to have it this season. Funny thing is, rivals now deep down, Arsenal had 0 strikers for a huge chunk of the season, sautéed teams in Champions League and got 2 semis and still finished second. I mean, that's the positive way of thinking about it for sure. I think, you would imagine that after all this time where people are like, they need a striker, that people would be scared now because we have one. So hopefully it all works out. Hopefully it all works out and Gyökeres hits the ground running and it feels like the solution that we always needed. That's what I'm expecting. We drew against Liverpool because we parked the bus. We need to be ready to win some games 3-1, 4-2, 5-3. Tired of desperately holding on to clean sheets. Of course. I think that's come in because we haven't been able to score enough and we never believed we were going to score. There was a lack of belief in what we were doing attacking wise. So I think the manager encouraged it and also the players, they got so scared and they were just like, we just need to hold on to this 1-0 instead of just going for more. And so, yeah, I don't want to be fully Emery down where it's like I'd rather win 5-4 than 1-0, but we have to be able to win some of those games. We have like that. Some teams are just going to catch us out, but last season, last season, if we conceded, it was over. And even if it was 0-0, it did not feel like we were going to score. We played a little bit with the handbrake on last season. What is wrong with you? Are you okay? Girl, what is wrong with her? She was losing her little mind. Okay. We do now have 2 players in every position covered. If there's weakness, it had to be left wing position if Martinelli and Trossard. Other than that, is probably Ethan deputizing for Odegaard. Look at all the player reaction to the signing. This will raise everyone's level. To think that a striker signing would lift the spirits. I mean, I'm so sorry, but I'm just kind of the type of person that, I try to think of the soft factors as well of making signings. And of course, the fans, the fans have a lot to do with it. We get lifted up by signings. And I think maybe the reason why last season didn't feel like a new season is because we didn't really make those signings that like made us feel like, okay, we're starting anew, we're doing something new. It was kind of the same thing. But I kept saying that the players need a lift, and that's going to come from new players in. They didn't get an opportunity to have that lift. They suffered badly. Arteta coming out and saying that, it would be the day before a game, and he'd be saying, well, what 5 players can actually play full 90s? Let's just pick those to play. Just shows you how poorly we plan for the season. And so not only from like just like a actual like logistical standpoint, we did not have enough players and we suffered, but mentally I think the players suffered by not really feeling like we're starting a new season and there's freshness in here, and we just have needed new attacking signings for a long time. It's been stale, so I think they're going to feel, I know they love Kai, but they will know just like us that we're missing something that other teams have, and they will have watched Gyokeres' tapes. They will know what kind of player he is and will be jumping for joy, Arteta Edu let the squad down last season by only bringing in Marino and Calafiori. No two ways about it. A lot of the players were clearly jaded. Yeah, I mean, because they're like, not only do we not have the nut, like I'm suffering because I just came back from the Euros and I need to come straight in and play full 90s, but there's no, not saying that there's no incentive because actually, like, you're getting paid and you love Arsenal, so you want to play. But I don't think there was like that pep in your step that you get when new players come in. So hopefully this will lift everybody's levels. We can see Edu was the cause of this. Look at what he's doing at Forest. Edu has blood on his hands. I mean, when I tell you that the level of crash out that I had at the end of that summer window, I was like, I don't think it could get any worse than the Jorginho crash out, which is my worst to date. Like, I was dead. I really was. I was just like, this is just not the club that I know. We're signing Jorginho in January after going after Caicedo. The crash out that I had after the summer window closed last summer was 10 times that bad because I was like, there's just no way we're going to win anything, with a team that's ran down and you didn't get any attackers in. And it's not even like an I told you so moment. It's just obvious. If you really want to compete, you need to have top end quality. You need to have really good quality up front, and we don't have that. And then it just so happened that like we also got those injuries as well, which they also said that they knew we would get, which really pissed me off even more. I'm like, so you knew. It's not even like you were just inexperienced and dumb and you just didn't know you need to be more prepared. You knew, so that just felt incredibly negligent. And then to go in January and double down. So regardless of how I feel about Noni, I'm at least happy that there's new energy up front. And I know his England teammates like him and are excited about him. I can feel that. I know that Saka and Declan probably think he's a great player, so they probably feel differently than we do, and we just have to see it. But Gyökeres is a game changer, and so it's going to breathe new life into this club. We haven't had a real striker in 7 years. Like, that's fucking crazy. Last summer window, compounded by the winter window, was both pathetic and insulting to everyone attached to the Arsenal. It was just so, and people are, oh, you didn't enjoy the season, Jess? How could you say that? And I was like, I didn't. I'm going to be so fucking for real. You guys know I'm never going to lie to you. I'm not going to sit here and try to save face. This channel is not to get merch or, to keep relations with Arsenal. This is a fan channel, so I was not lying. I did not enjoy last season. It was hard to get through. It was like pulling teeth. Playing bad football, injuries left and right. The summer window didn't help. And I was pissed. I'm like, January window, you guys don't want to spend the additional to make sure we have a forward to come in, because it's not like we're not in semifinals. Like, we're literally in semifinals and we could win a trophy. And you guys didn't think it was important enough to get a forward so that we could actually salvage the season. That shocked me. Like, I know Arsenal can be diabolical, but that was bad, So, yeah, no, I did not enjoy last season. It was the Real Madrid tie was a nice little high for a while, but last season cannot happen again. It just cannot. Even with Martinelli and Trossard, this team is not bad. You excited for the season, Jess? A little bit more now that we have Gyökeres through the door. I still am cautious because we have a hard start to the season. I would love to have had a little ease it in a little bit more, like if we had played some other teams, but at the very beginning. But a little bit. Let's see how we look tomorrow. Like, if we look good tomorrow and fresh and fit, then I'll start to get more excited. But even like preseason last season, I was like, they're not fit. I was telling my mom when we were watching us against Man United, I was like, they're not fit. They look sus. So let's see, but with Gyökeres coming in, I feel a lot better. Rather watch Noni stink out the joint than Martinelli at this point. Last season was depressing. UCL was our saving grace. The ownership are not football people, very simple but annoying. I call them calculators. That's all they are. They're just running around with their little calculators like, yeah, but let me get to the numbers. Let me get to the numbers. It's like, I need football people to make footballing decisions, like genuinely. Like, I get it. You want to go through with the numbers and talk about valuations and, oh, but a player this old is not, you don't want to pay more than this for a player that's this old, always coming from the Portuguese league. That means that it has this percentage chance of flopping. I don't want to hear any of that. Put your calculator down for 5 seconds. We need to win, so the calculators are winning out right now, but we need real football people. But that'll only come with different ownership. And once you accept that the Cronkies are tight and they don't really care about winning, it's just, you realize, like, if we win, it'll be in spite of them, in my opinion, because the moves that they make are not aligned with a club that's desperate to win. Their moves are in line with a club that would like to win, or is, would like to win, but not desperate. And so once I accept that, I'm like, okay, so the calculators are going to keep us from, getting Eze, or, they're not going to give the money up front to get Eze because we really need that player, so, and I feel like the only reason why they sanction deals for the Chelsea deals is because they don't have to pay as much up front. I think it's just that simple. Personally, I found it easier to deal with not winning things during the banter era, but being good and this close and not winning is heartbreaking, of course. That's why, like, when I say that we're not ready to win and we're not winning anything because of how the squad is constructed and stuff, that's not to say that I don't think we're close. Like, being 2 to 5% away is really frustrating because we've been at the 2 to 5% mark for 3 seasons now. So when we ended the 22-23 season, we only needed like 1 or 2 players. We kind of got one. We got the defender, but we missed out on him because of his ACL. We got a goalkeeper, but we didn't go get something X factor at the top end of the pitch. So pushed it to another season, finished 2 points behind, and say we need that X factor. Go into that summer window saying we needed the X factor. Don't get anything. Get Calafiori and get Marino. So you didn't get the 1 or 2 players that you needed to get. Push it down the line again. We finally got the striker, but are we still missing one more? So being close is actually definitely more excruciating than being in 8th. In 8th, you just are like, we're shit. We're just not that good. But now there's even like pressure as well on us to win, which makes it worse. When you're just asked, nobody expects you to do anything, But now that we're close, there's expectation that we win something, and we're 2 to 5% away, and they won't sanction the deal for Eze. It's crazy. Are we underestimating the effect we will feel by not signing a legit left wing? For me, it is just as important as a striker. No, I don't think we're underestimating it, because the crash outs that I saw today would say, that most fans, or I won't say most fans, but there's a lot of fans that feel like that was just as important as a striker. So potentially, I think it all depends on if Arteta is going to stand on business and what he thinks about Nani is actually true and he can coach him into something special, then, but there's a lot of ifs and a lot of things have to, fall into place. And that's why you should have just bought a left wing, because then you wouldn't have to have everything fall into place for it. But yeah, unless that happens, then I do think we'll feel the effect of not having a really good left wing. Because like I just said, like, that front three needs to score 50 goals plus by themselves. And, Martinelli gets like 7 goals, or, Noni gets 5 goals or something, we're going to be stressed, so yeah. Here we go. Yes, finally. I know, it's exciting. I think a lot of us are overlooking Ethan after some disappointment from last season, a few meh performances, not as much playing time towards the end of the season. He'll be like a new signing. Listen, I've been saying this for weeks that I agree with that. There is a kind of like thing with Ethan now where people are not as excited about him as they were last season, which I feel a little bit like, so did you rate him or did you not? Because my expectation from him at the beginning of the season, he exceeded that. Of course, he had some weird performances towards the end, but what he did in that one part of the season where we were desperate and we were starting him and Trossard and Marino cannot be understated, you know. And he was our like biggest goal threat sometimes. So I do think people are overlooking Ethan. I agree. And I think because right now rating him doesn't suit their narrative as much as it did during the season. So Ethan is definitely like a new signing to me. He'll have, I think, a much bigger impact. So yeah, I'm excited to see how he'll play this season. But I wasn't just rating him for shits and gigs last season either. And we all have Max Dowman. You know how people they're going to be desperate for Max Dowman. Now I'm very much so keeping my powder dry with that because he's really young. And so I have zero expectation expectation for him. But people are going to be like gassed about that. I think the Ethan thing was due to probably him burning out. He was probably close to the red zone physically. That front three, laugh out loud. How did we finish second? Xhaka to Sunderland, which that's interesting. That just shows the pool of the Premier League. Sunderland has done a lot of. That's going to be one of those games. It's a new Everton. The new Everton for us. We do not do well when we go up north. And so Xhaka trying to show, yeah, I don't like it. But I am, you know what I am excited to see? Granit Xhaka versus Bruno Guimaraes in that derby. I'm going to be sacked. Actually, let's see when that game is. Because they need a piece of their own fucking medicine, Newcastle. They need to know what it feels like to have an actual rival that actually hates you and have them playing against you. Oh, December 13th. That's great. Yeah. We will be sat. We'll be sat. 100%. I will be there. Xhaka, an elbow right to the head. Bah! That's what you need to do. Newcastle versus Sunderland will be amazing watch. Tross Marino Ethan was something. It was dark, but in the dark came the light from Ethan. He was like our best attacker in some of those games. What is the fate of Gabriel Jesus? The bench, I think. I don't see last season as a disappointment in performance. We saw flashes of brilliance and isn't ready physically, and that's okay though. Yeah, so interesting. Do you hate Newcastle? No, but they hate us, so I want to see bad things happen to them. And if their rival coming in and nicking points off of them, this season and making it a tough game and banging their players up against their head and shit, if that needs to happen, then yeah, I'm down for that. Yeah. One thing about that club is they have manufactured a rivalry with us out of thin air. And the hate for me does not go the other way at all. My 90% of my hate goes to Manchester United and like 10% towards Spurs. But they've manufactured hate for us, and I'm just like, so hold that. I hope Sunderland bops you up right off the park. They've just bought a bunch of black attackers. You mean Sunderland? Good for them. Eze and Rodrigo, doubt that's happening. It's the Yamal effect. They expect him to be Ballon d'Or contender. I had like no expectation for Ethan or MLS this past season because I didn't expect, for our left, for them to be more, it's like was really Miles was like a shock, so let's see how it goes. But listen, you guys, we've been streaming for about 3 hours now, so I'm going to go ahead and go. But make sure you guys like the video and subscribe to the channel on your way out. If anything else happens, I'll come back, but the next time you'll see me will probably be tomorrow. So yeah, make sure you guys like and subscribe on the way out, and we will chit chat, yeah, tomorrow. Bye, guys.